All right, and we are live. We are live right now. What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing? Welcome to another episode of the Kava podcast. You guys already know I'm the host. My name is Will. I'm excited today. I have I have one of our great Polynesian sisters all the way from Cali, all the way from the Bay Area. She does speak Samoan and Tongan. So she got the both of best routes. So all my Usos out there, but all my Tokos out there, all my Tongans out there. Oh yeah, she got it both. And also, like I said, she's a athlete. You know, she want to be humble, but I know she was a beast. She was a beast in her day. But very excited today. Very grateful. Very excited. Thank you for the opportunity for today for her to join me on my podcast. So I'm excited to hear her story and definitely share that with everybody to help everybody out there. So. But I'll let her take over and let her introduce herself real quick. So go ahead.
Hi everyone, very blessed to be on this podcast. My name is Apaau Solovi-Mailau. I'm 24 years old. I was born in Utah and I currently reside in San Jose, California. And like my good man said, I'm half Tongan, half Samoan.
Mali and Mali. All the Samoans and Tongans, so that'll be cool. I'm very excited to hear your story today, especially you know both, and you can speak both. So that's cool. That's cool. All right, for sure. All right, but let's get it started. Yeah. So, how did you grow up?
How did I grow up? I grew up in a very strict household, which I'm sure everybody understands that. Technically, I was raised by my dad's sisters, my aunts, his two older sisters, and their husbands and their kids. Like, we grew up in one little household in Magna, and it was just super strict. Like, these guys are straight from Tongan. So, you know, we couldn't have any friends. We couldn't do certain, we couldn't watch TV. They had a lot of, like, very small, strict rules.
Yeah.
And I just remember, like, being little, like going to school, like I would ask if our friends could come over, and all I hear is my aunts like, the only friends you need are the cousins that are sitting right there. And I was like, I don't want to be friends with them because I see them every
day. Yeah.
But I did, yeah. I grew up in a very strict household. It was because like a lot of my cousins were already older anyways, like they were already in their 20s, out of high school. And then there was four of us. There's me, my sister, and then my two first cousins. So we were like the youngest out of the bunch. And I felt, maybe they felt different about it. Like our older cousins, they would always complain, like saying, you guys don't have it as hard as we did when we were younger. And I was like, what are you talking about? This is hard as it is. Like, a bunch of little kids just. And I wouldn't say like I grew up poor, but we didn't have much. Like we didn't have much. We just had the basic necessities, like we had a home, a couple cars here and there. But yeah, that's like I'm so sorry. It's like yeah. My life as a kid, I just remember like every day I'd come home, like me and my sisters would all come home, and I just remember us living such a hard life, like coming home from school, because we, like, all four of us would get beat up. Mainly like the two older ones got beat up, but like because I was the youngest out of the four. But I just remember coming home and just getting beat up almost every day of my life. And
like when you say beat up, what do you mean?
Like, my family would discipline us just because of like small things that weren't done correctly. Like say the bathroom wasn't the clean that they wanted it to be clean.
Yeah.
And we'd get like beat up for it. And I'm like, then why don't you, I didn't say it, but in my mind, I'm like, well, why don't you clean it since you don't trust us to clean it the way you want it?
Yeah.
But yeah, I wouldn't say beat up. Oh my gosh. My family loves me. I hope everybody knows this. My family loves me, but like, just
got discipline.
Discipline, not beat up. But yeah, they used to discipline us for like small things like that. And it would happen like not almost every day, but nearly like every other day. Like we'd come home, we'd get disciplined, and then we would just sit in the house all day. all day long. Like we weren't even allowed to go, well, like play inside our yard, but that's the furthest we could go. And like that's the like that's literally the most I could do was just be in our yard and just that was like me being little though.
Yeah. So, getting disciplined, if you probably, if you listen to this, you already know that's like a normal lifestyle, a normal child upbringing, and I always have conversations about this with my own friends about the way we grew up, about the tough love, right? And depending on who you say, some of us, it's tougher than others, but even for myself, I grew up with my grandma, and she was pretty tough. We used to call her living in her household like a camp, prison camp. we joke about it now, like looking back. Oh, you survived camp. You graduated. We were survivors. We call ourselves the survivors about grandma's camp because she was ruthless. But that's just how she was. So I want to ask you is, by getting disciplined every single day, how did you feel? How did that make you feel? About yourself, self-esteem wise, because I feel like, and we were just talking about it, like because a lot of times what our parents does, like they discipline us, but they don't tell us the reason why. Like they'll just discipline us, right? And depending on who you are, sometimes that can definitely impact the kid on how they feel, and make them feel low self-esteem and then feel depressed, right? So I just want to ask you your own experience of getting disciplined. Like, did you? Because a lot of times I hear a lot of kids, that their relationship, even though they grew up with their parents, like as they grow older, because of all the discipline and the tough love and not receiving a lot of care and affection, they can make them feel alone in their own home. I've seen this a lot. So it really depends on you. For me, like I grew up with my grandma, and even though I got disciplined the same way like everybody did, but luckily for me, my attitude was like, I have a personality where I'm just like happy-go-lucky all the time. So like I just laugh about it and move on with my life. But I also have family members and cousins that discipline hurt them emotionally to the point where like they hold a lot of baggage or hurt. And it's hard for them to connect with people. It's hard for them. I had one conversation. I don't know if you saw the podcast with Eli Matangi.
Oh yeah.
He talked about it, where that's why a lot of our Polynesian men are violent. Because the way we deal with things in life is just in the Polynesian culture, with what we see with our parents. Whenever something was wrong, there was like a conflict. The way they dealt with it was through physical discipline. So that's why a lot of Polynesian men, like they grow up, that they don't learn the skills of debating and deliberating and like figuring out things out in a healthy and peaceful manner. Right. So as Polynesian men, when we have issues and conflicts and relationships at work with people, other people we meet in the street, with strangers, our first reaction is like,
it's like, hey, they wanna.
Right. It's like, hey, hook up,
I know. It's like, hey, stop over, and then you're like, oh.
All right, and that's our first response into everything in life. And that's why you see a lot of Polynesian. That's why a lot of people are like afraid of us as polys, right? A lot of people are afraid of us, or label us as violent people, right? It's because that's what we saw as kids. That's why as men, that's what we saw as kids. Like when there was a conflict from our parents, they just hit us. So we go out there, and then we have a issue with somebody else, we just hit them, and that's just our natural response. And we never learned the skill of building relationships and talking things out, which is very important. Like you need that skill, especially when it comes to a job, or especially when it comes to relationships. So what I'm saying is that depending on your own experience, there's so many things that you can experience from it. So I'm just curious to learn when you got disciplined as a kid, what did you feel, and then how did that impact you? Was it a positive way? All right. Because everything is positive and negative. For me, a lot of my cousins and a lot of my family members, they have like painful memories towards and like resentment towards my grandma.
Yeah. Oh.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. And I understand, right? Because my grandma was tough, right? But the thing is, for me, I don't have any resentment towards her, even though I went through the same. Because it really depends on your own experience, right? It depends on you as so. I never had resentment towards my grandma. I just understood that that's how she was, and that's how she was raised. And a lot of times, and I know I need to say this to a lot of kids out there that's listening, because a lot of times I know sometimes that when we get disciplined as a kid, that can create a lot of ill feelings towards our parents, especially as we go older.
Yeah.
Right. And I've seen this a lot where and I hate to say this, but I see the parents and the kids, their relationships goes apart as they go older because of their parents used to die them and beat them up, like you take your words, beat them up, and they have issues now. Right? Sometimes I meet Polynesians and they're all messed up, and I always ask them, "Hey, did you get beat up as a kid?"
They're like, "Oh man,"
and I don't know, like, "Oh, that makes sense."
I know, for real.
Oh, dang. That's why everything's starting to click now. But that's a joking manner. But yeah. So like, and I never, and also so that's why I want to say first and foremost before you go into it, for all those kids out there, just understand that our parents gave us the best life that they know how to give, because they grew up with their own parents and their own culture, and their parents taught them how they, however the way our parents raised us is how they were raised, right? So whether or not you like it or not, whether or not you have a good experience or bad experience, trauma, whatever, it's just that's all they know.
Yeah.
So even though we can't put all the blame on our parents, we have to, at some point we have to take responsibility for ourselves and make sure that when we have kids one day in a family, that we break that generational curse.
Seriously.
All right. But I just don't want these kids to hear this and they're like, "Oh yeah, Apaau told me, yeah, he's right, Will's right." I don't want you guys to start a revolution in your home.
Oh yeah, no, like don't listen to me.
Right. No, I just want you guys to understand what our parents, no matter how they raised you and no matter if it was tough, that's all they knew how, and they love us at the end of the day.
Yeah.
All right. And everybody just gets taught how to love in a different way.
Yeah.
So I just want to put that out there before you start talking about your own experience. But I want to ask you is, looking back at it now, look at it now to who you are today, and when you went through that experience of getting disciplined every single day, and there's no communication, there's no talk, there's no, you're able to voice your opinion and talk to your parents. So I want to ask you is, how did that impact you, and how did that make develop you into the person you are today? And was it hard for you to go out to the real life in the real world? Do you have any things you deal with now that you feel like it's because of the discipline? So I'm just interested to hear that from your own experience and perspective.
Yeah. Oh man. Looking back at it now, like when I was younger and like me and my siblings would get, me and my sisters would get disciplined, I felt like, personally I felt like I was invincible, because I was like, if I get beat up at home, I can go somewhere and get hurt and I won't feel a thing. Like that's what I thought I was. I thought I was Wonder Woman, like after the beatings. But even then, like emotionally and like mentally as a kid, like it made me scared. It made me like super nervous to be anywhere, because I didn't know if because obviously my aunts and all my other older cousins were always around, and I wasn't sure if they were watching my every move, like at school. Because I remember at school I was super shy. I was always like, you could always see me shaking, and people were like, "Are you all right? Like, okay?" And I'm like, "I'm all right. I'm tired." Like the same excuse. I'm just tired. Like me. And I was like really nervous. Like I like some days when I would get disciplined, like before they even touch me, I'm already crying, because I know like the pain they're gonna like release on me, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this. Maybe if I cry, they won't beat me up, and then I'd make it 10 times worse because they haven't touched me yet, and they're like, why are you crying? Do you want me to give you a reason to cry? And I'm like, I'm crying so you don't hit me. So you feel sad for me. Obviously, it's not working.
Did you ever get this? Did you ever get this? I always laugh about it. When you get disciplined by your parents and they get mad when you cry.
Yeah. I'm telling you, it made it 10 times worse for me because
Yeah.
being the youngest, like I'd see my like older sisters sitting there crying and I'm like, please don't hit me. Like you've already hit 3 people.
I'll share you something. Like I remember that's how I got disciplined. Like I'll get hit, and then and they'll get mad if I cry. So I learned at an early age that I can't cry. If I stop crying, if I just act like that I'm not crying, then they'll stop.
Oh,
and now I'm older. I can't cry no more. It's hard for me. I literally can't cry no more. Like because I've been conditioned that way as a kid.
Yeah.
Like when bad things happen and when I go through stuff, sometimes people think I'm weird. Like, dude, are you all right? Like,
Wait,
you're
no,
not crying.
Yeah.
I'm like, look.
There's moments where you're just kind of like. I emotional and you're just
I just learned that even when I got hit, I just learned to like just take it and just it become normal. It became like a normalized thing where I just get hit and just all right, just another time, just get hit.
Just shake it off.
So now that translated to my life now, where people think I'm weird because when things, certain situations where you should cry as a human being, I don't show no emotion or cry.
Yeah.
It's just because of my upbringing, and then people think like I'm like this, like cold or heart. Like,
I feel
it. But that's just a byproduct of like me growing up as a kid. But yeah.
That's crazy. I don't know. But yeah, like, I don't blame you because like there are times where, I feel like getting disciplined definitely takes a lot of your emotions away.
Yeah.
Because obviously, like you were saying, like people think you're cold-hearted, but really, that's really just how you were kind of, your upbringing where your parents are like, stop crying, like you can't cry, and especially because you're a poly man, because you know how that is, like they're always forcing the boys, being like, you can't cry, you can't. And I'm like, that's why. Oh my god, like I feel it for real, because like now that I'm older too, like I don't really cry as much. Like even if I'm like, I know I'm super hurt, like I'm just like sitting there and I'm like, you gotta bear, you gotta bear with it, take it in.
Yeah.
So personally, I didn't get beat up as much as my older sister. So not my other 2 first cousins, but this is technically my older sister. She was the one that probably got it the worst. And like her getting beat up every day also led to me like my emotions just running wild, because I feel like that's where most of my tears went, was my poor sister, my older sister.
Yeah.
I'd see her get beat up and I'd always cry. And I felt like she took it upon herself to like take most of my discipline, because I'm younger and I was the youngest before. So when I would be crying before they hit me, my sister would jump in and be like, she didn't do it. It was me. And I'd be like, here's innocent old me, I'm scared for my life. Scared for my life, and I don't want to get hit. But I didn't have a voice to jump in front of my sister and be like, no, she's lying. Like, I did it too. And I would just like kind of, I'd let my sister take the beatings most of the time. So like, a lot of my mental and emotional stability went towards my sister, trying to hold her up, because I know she took a lot of I know she took a lot of beatings. Her being the oldest, and then her just always jumping in front of me. And so like now that I'm older, like every time I see my older sister, I'm always in front. Like I'm always like, no, she didn't do it, always trying to cover for her the way that she covered for me. Her and my other first cousin, who's the oldest out of all 4 of us, those 2 took most of the like they technically carried us 4 throughout the time, because I feel like how you're saying, like our parents came from the islands, they didn't have they didn't have the tools or the people in front of them, because family, like probably because their parents are back in the islands. So they didn't have the tools or the guidance or the equipment to just kind of raise us. And so I just felt like my sister and my cousin just kind of took it upon themselves to like emotionally, mentally, and physically carry the four of us. Because I could just like, now that I'm thinking about it, majority of the time it was those two that got the beatings. And then here's me, like always trying to comfort them and telling them like, I'm sorry, I should have jumped in. But there's this, I was a scrawny, skinny child. So obviously I could feel those beatings really, really bad. So, it felt really like I felt like they carried us all the way. And sometimes I would just comfort them, kind of get my way to them. And I just feel like it took, obviously it made us tough skin because like now, like all of us are just, we're like in a huge better state. But I feel like being little, because of all that discipline, I felt like we didn't know, like we weren't allowed to know sadness.
Yeah.
Like there is no such thing as sadness or at least in our household.
Yeah.
Nobody could be sad. Like we always had to be. We didn't even know what that was. If I'm being
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
we had no idea what the heck sadness was. We only knew
Yeah.
sadness at the moment of our discipline, and then
Yeah.
that's it. It's gotta go. Like if you're still sitting there crying 2-3 minutes after
Yeah.
you got disciplined, you need to pick yourself up and hurry up, 'cause they're gonna come and beat you up again.
Yeah.
So I just, yeah, like mentally for me as a kid, I didn't know what any emotions were except for happiness. Like,
Yeah.
and I didn't even realize like how we were growing up was bad,
Yeah.
because you get so, it becomes muscle memory when you get
Yeah.
in, and you're just
Yeah.
kind of used to it, and you're just like, oh, it's a regular day. Like, I already know what's gonna happen. I don't need to really have to, worry about it. So yeah, like growing up in our household was like just like hectic for the four of us because there was only just us four little ones and the rest were already out of the house and just doing their own stuff. And it took, I know it took a lot, but at the same time when I was little, I didn't know what any of it was or like how I was supposed to feel. So technically as a child, I was like always happy. Like at
Yeah.
school, at home, all I had to show was that I was happy. My life is okay. My life is great. Like nothing wrong happens at home. Like I'm happy. The girls are happy. I'm happy. So
Yeah.
technically, what it kind of ran off of in my household as kids. So
Yeah. I want to ask you is yeah, a lot of memories popping up right now. No, I want to talk about something that they said that I feel like that's very important. That happens a lot. You said that you didn't know what sadness was, right? And you didn't know how to deal with your emotions. And I feel like there's a lot of Polynesians out there that we never developed like emotional intelligence to understand our feelings. And especially when we're struggling with when we're struggling emotionally with like say bad thoughts or depression, or we're just going through a hard time in life, a lot of times we try to act like there's nothing wrong with us, and we try to just like bury it, even though we're all hurt inside, and try to smile on the outside, and we never deal with it, and we just try to live our life. Okay, and I've heard this a lot with a lot of people I talk to, that you could be depressed, but you wouldn't even know that you're depressed.
Seriously.
Right? And you just, because you never develop any emotional intelligence to understand your feelings, what you're supposed to feel, that this feeling is healthy and this feeling is not healthy.
Yeah.
Because we don't have that awareness, that a lot of times, and of course, everybody, we're gonna feel some negative thoughts. We're gonna go through depression. We're gonna go through like hard times in our life.
Yeah.
And then that's normal, but that's one of the hardest things, that when we go into the real world, that we finally go into certain situations and things, and we finally face real sadness.
Oh yeah.
But we don't know that that's real sadness. We don't know that.
Yeah.
And then we actually just keep repeating that cycle. And then eventually it gets to a point where people, with depression, if you don't deal with it, eventually it's gonna hit you. No matter how much you want to hide it or don't want to talk about it, how much you want to avoid it, or tell yourself, I'm not depressed. I'm happy. I'm happy. I'm happy. I'm happy.
Okay, yeah. Like,
I'm okay. Okay. And then eventually life just hits you, and then you're gonna break down and fall apart. So I want to ask you, did you ever experience that? Like, when you finally went, when you finally living your own life now, doing your own thing, that you finally went through your own sadness, to your own lowest point of your life. Like we all hit rock bottom at some point about life.
Oh yeah.
And I want you to talk about that. And I want to ask you, did you know you were depressed? Did you know your feelings? And then that's when we, as Polynesians, when we go through those times, that's when we realize, oh wow, that's when we start understanding what feelings are.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you, did you ever go that experience when you went through some sadness, some depression, some like rock bottoms in your life, and how you didn't know you were sad, how you didn't know you didn't know what those emotions are because you never taught that at home.
Seriously. So, like I said, how my aunts raised me, my parents were always they weren't always present.
Yeah.
Generally, they weren't always together.
Yeah.
So, like, I never really saw my parents as much, and they never were really together, even if in our own home and stuff. So I think I moved. So around like my 5th, 6th grade year in elementary, my family. So my mom ended up taking us from my dad's family, and then we ended up moving to Rose Park, in Utah, and we stayed with my mom's brother.
Rose Park.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm from Magna Rose Park, but so we stayed there for a little bit with my mom's younger siblings, because my mom comes from a family of 11.
Okay.
And there's only 3 here in America, so we ended up staying with them in Rose Park, and I think that's when I realized there was actually emotions running through me, because my parents just split, and I'm like, obviously I'm not understanding oh, what's going on, like how come my parents don't love each other, like what is this type thing. And it was kind of awkward because obviously I was like I said, my mom was never present, so I didn't know how to I didn't know how to talk to her. And so I just remember feeling like all these emotions and all this anger, and I was like, everything that I had in me, I could feel. Like mainly it was anger and like sadness. That's when I realized, I was like, what the heck are these? Like, but who am I supposed to go to? Because I would look at my mom, and my mom just goes to work, she cooks and cleans the house, and then she goes to sleep and doesn't really talk to us.
We feel, sometimes as kids, we feel like our parents are unapproachable.
Yeah.
They're like, there's this wall that we can't communicate with. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially because my mom is hopefully my mom don't watch this podcast, but my mom is a very she's built. She's a very strong.
Hella buff.
Yeah, she's a very strong lady. So obviously that's another reason why she was.
That's intimidating as a child.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't want to talk to my mom. She's gonna pick me up. She's not even gonna let me say anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, she would just come home, clean, cook, and then go straight to sleep. And then I just remember finding out, I tried to find ways to just kind of let my anger out, because I became super aggressive, within that little phase time. I became super aggressive. I ended up I used to hit my little sisters, and my little brother. I used to bully them so bad because I was so angry at the fact that I didn't know what was going on. How I was supposed to feel. And even then I would punch holes in my wall, and my idea was grabbing picture frames and stuff, printing out pictures and just putting it on the places that the holes were in, so that my mom didn't have to, or my uncle and them didn't have to walk in and see it and be like,
Marcy, punching holes.
They're like, what is this? I'm like, we got rats. I don't know, those holes were there.
Some big rats.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, I used to I came off very, very aggressive. I was just mean. I was just always angry. And I decided to just break things. I decided to hurt, my poor little siblings. I just decided to hurt anything that came across, that I came across, whether it was friends at school, people at church. I did not care. I was angry with life and just how it ended, And so that's when I had a teacher who I can't remember her name, although I should, because she actually impacted my life very, very big.
Yeah.
But I remember she could see that she was like, this girl's aggressive. She's got problems. Like she
Yeah.
needs, I feel like she needs some help. And
Yeah.
when like the social workers come and they come and they talk to the Polynesian kids, and I'm just kind of like, she came and she's like, is everything okay at home? And
Yeah.
the pride in me is like, no, like everything's
Yeah.
fine at home.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
well, why are you asking me? Why are you talking to
Yeah.
me?
Yeah. You're
And
getting mad.
yeah, and then I'm getting mad because she just keeps questioning me. She's like, is everything okay at home? Like, do you need help? And here's me like, no, no, it's okay. Like, I'm all
Yeah.
right. Like, I don't need to talk to you. I don't need to talk to anybody. And then I guess the last question she had asked me was, she was like, do you want to cry? And I was like sitting there for the longest, like 2 minutes of my life.
Yeah.
I was sitting there and I was like thinking, I was like, cry. What is that?
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? And then I just started crying. And then
Yeah.
she could tell, she was like, okay, she was like, you don't need to tell me anything. Like, you don't need to explain yourself. But she was like, I can tell you're sad. She's like, I can tell you got things bottled up. She's like, you don't need to tell me. But she ended up giving me a notebook,
Mm-hmm.
like a super big notebook. And she just gave me a pen and she just told me, she's like, I'm not going to read it. You don't have to show me, but just write how you feel. Like, explain, what happens at home, like how your day's been, or what do you think you feel and how you feel about it. And I just started writing. Like after
Mm-hmm.
that, oh, I just started writing. I like
Mm.
even then, like I'd still have stuff built up, but I'd always write it down, and I'd always like, cause even then, like even now that I'm older, my mom's still kind of like iffy. Like she's
Yeah.
approachable and I can talk to her about things, but there's
Yeah.
some topics that make my mom super uncomfortable, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
but like I just started writing things down. I started like writing poems. I started writing like short stories, long stories. Like I started just writing everything. And then I think after my seventh grade year, I gave
Mm-hmm.
her my notebook and I was like, you know what? I was like, I thank you so much. Like, because this
Yeah.
is when my family was moving back to Magna. So I was like, thank you. You know what? Read it. And she's like, what? Aren't you moving? And I was like, yeah, but that means you're not going to see me and you don't have to talk to me. Like,
Yeah.
that's how I kind of wanted it to be. And I
Yeah.
just told her, I was like, just read it, and I left, I remember leaving my mom's phone number in case she wanted to like call me. And I just remember her calling my mom's phone, and my mom was like, why did you give your teacher my number? And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, oh geez, I'm gonna get beat up. Like this is
Yeah.
like, oh, I probably should have never gave your number. But I just remember her calling, and then they ended up sending, a social worker to my house to try and explain to my mom, like, hey, your daughter is like, she doesn't seem like she's in the right mind.
Yeah.
And the typical Polynesian parents are like,
Yeah.
my daughter is fine. Like
Yeah.
my daughter tells me a lot of things, and I'm like, mom, that's why you're lying. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like here comes them, and they're like, no, my kids are fine. Like, don't worry. Like, mind your business type thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where asking help or getting or receiving help is just not in our books. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
I was like, to think I was so close to like getting us something to like help me get close to my mom.
Yeah.
And then yeah, and then I just remember her, she never called after that.
Yeah.
I was so sad, like I could feel the sadness just kind of, I was like, I don't like this feeling, like why do I
Yeah.
feel like this? And then we had moved to Magna with my mom's younger sister, and my mom wasn't present then either, but I think I don't blame my parents at all, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't like hold anything against my parents.
Mm-hmm.
But my mom wasn't present during probably like my eighth to my senior year,
Mm-hmm.
and like I was happy. I was always happy. Like I didn't have to really deal with like my mom or just the burdens that she had threw on us. Like I was
Mm-hmm.
always happy after my mom had left, and I feel like my parents played a big part in my emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I was like, oh, my mom not being here has made things like better. And
Yeah.
like I'm very grateful for my mom and I love her completely. But like just during that, that little high school time and middle school time, I didn't feel that sadness. But when my mom would come around, or even my dad, like I always just felt sad around them. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. It's always been like that. Every time they come near me or they talk, like, well, with my mom now, I'm always happy around my mom. But my dad, on the other hand, it's just kind of like, I just feel like that like Tongan strength that he has in him, where
Hmm.
he's just like he doesn't really want to confront anything that that he that has happened in the past, or like.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like my dad feels like it doesn't affect us, because there will be a time where I'll like bring it up to my dad, and my dad's like, he's like
Yeah.
"Aluki like alu itoa," and I'm like, I don't want to go outside. I want to, like, can we talk? And my dad's like,
Yeah. No. Yeah.
like, go away.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, Dad, thanks. It was great talk.
Yeah.
It was a great talk, Dad. Yeah, and I think I hit like rock bottom was after high school.
Yeah.
That's when I realized I was depressed. Like
Yeah.
I was really depressed, like, and I was actually suicidal. Like it
Yeah.
became so bad, and it had nothing to do with people like around me, or like my family or anything.
Yeah.
And I feel like it didn't have anything to do with any of like my upbringing or anything that I was like because I didn't have any baggage. I like
Yeah. Like you didn't hold any feelings towards anybody.
Yeah,
You were feeling at that moment.
yeah, and I was like, what is this? Like, why do I feel so like lost and confused? And I was like, oh my gosh, because like throughout high school I was always okay. Like I grew up in I grew up pretty smooth the older I got.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it was like right after high school, because I was playing for the U.S. like, and I was like in the development program. I was trying so hard to be like a top rugby player. That was technically my goal after high school. And so
Yeah.
that's what I was doing. And then maybe like a couple weeks after like my camps and stuff in here in California, I just started feeling really lost and confused. Like I didn't know what I was supposed to do, like what my purpose was, or why am
Hmm.
I here? And I started questioning everything that I was doing,
Hmm.
especially with rugby. Like, because rugby, like ever since I touched a rugby ball, my love for rugby remains at its highest. I will never
Yeah.
like I will never ever stop playing. I don't care how old I am, but yeah, and I questioned a lot of things. I questioned the love my family had for me. I questioned like my rugby. I questioned the schools that I was trying to attend, and I just started questioning everything around me.
Hmm.
And it started leading me into like suicide.
Yeah.
Had tons of suicidal thoughts. Every day I'd wake up and I'd be like, I'd just lay in bed before work and be like, dang, God decided to wake me up again. Like, I don't want to be here. Like, this is,
Yeah.
I don't understand why you keep waking me up when I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
And it just kept going. I had finally made a breakthrough. I think it was 2018. But like throughout that 4 years from 2015 to 2018 was such a struggle, like in all aspects, like mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, especially. Like
Yeah.
I stopped attending church, I stopped going to all the functions, and
Yeah.
I wouldn't go to the sacrament meetings. And then I remember talking to the bishop, telling the bishop, like, I don't want to take, sacrament. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even want to be over there. And the bishop was like kind of confused. And then
Yeah.
when I go to family functions, my family knows me to be very like loud, obnoxious, always running around, dancing, trying to
Yeah.
but they started noticing because I would just sit there at the
Yeah.
at the family functions, and like I just sit there and eat, play with the food on my plate, and they'd be like, "Are you right? Like, hey, you okay? You're not yourself." And I was just like, "Oh yeah, I'm all right."
Yeah. Yeah.
And then towards rugby, like towards my rugby team, they could tell that I was like kind of sad, but like they knew I didn't want to talk about it,
Yeah.
and nobody kind of really like tried to reach out in the
Yeah.
And they just could tell because physically I was skinny. Like I was getting really, really skinny. Because
You
I
were
think,
eating?
huh?
You probably weren't eating. Were you
Yeah.
eating?
No, I was not. I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I would not eat at all. I'd probably, it felt like, it'd be lucky if I ate once in the day.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. That's how bad it got.
Yeah. Yeah.
Emotionally, I'd be drained at work. I'd be drained, just I'd always be in my room 24/7. Like
Hmm.
only time you see me out is if I need to use the restroom and that's it. Like
Yeah.
I didn't want to eat. I didn't want to, I didn't want to see anybody. I didn't want to go out. I was
Hmm.
just so sad and depressed. And it just, it didn't make sense to me because I just didn't know how, like, or what could have led to my depression or my suicide. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, I was like, man, I just don't understand how I went from being so happy to just to the lowest of the low.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it was 2015 was my very, like, not my first, but like one of my biggest attempts of committing suicide. I
Yeah.
just remembered my sisters had left to work, or not work, but my little sisters had gone to school. All my siblings had gone to school, and my mom had left for work. And I don't remember anything except for messaging my little sister, telling her that I love her. And I was like, tell mom I love them. And my little sister is probably confused.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel bad because I inflicted her with that message and she
Yeah.
was confused herself. And I just remember my phone ringing continuously, and I was just looking at it and I was like crying my eyeballs out, and I was like, I
Yeah.
don't want to be here. Like I don't understand why I'm here. And so I just remember like I remember grabbing a belt, putting it around my neck, and then I tried to jump, like, yeah, I tried to jump off my closet, and like to think that it had almost went through. Like I just remember waking up unconscious, and I was like, I could hear banging on my door, and I was like, oh, I can't get up. And I'm just like confused. And then I went back to sleep, and then I woke up in the hospital, and I just can see like my mom and them, they're like confused. My mom was super confused. She
Yeah.
was like crying, and I was like, to me, I was thinking like I thought I was dead. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
you know. But then I had woken up and I'd seen my mom and them, and I was like, oh, like I don't want to do
Yeah.
this. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
why is this happening?
Yeah.
And I just remember going home and we were talking about it, and my mom's like, as my mom's just throwing all of the good things. She's throwing all the good things that's happened. She's like, man, how could you do that to yourself when you have people who love you? Like,
Yeah.
your life is better than it's ever been, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I'm like, I don't think you understand. Like, I can't explain to you why I feel like this. And
Yeah.
I just remember her looking at me like she wanted to fight me.
Yeah.
When I said that. She was like, what do you mean? And I was like, I don't know how to express or explain this. Like,
Yeah.
it's not something I have against you guys or like anybody. It's just, it's how I feel, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
And I just remember my mom just sitting there, and she just kept crying, and she's like, and I just remember she said a lot of hurtful things, and I was just like, man.
Yeah.
And I felt really crappy, and I just, even then it made it worse. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So since then, like, I always like think about it, and I'm like, man, like, who would have known what depression was? Because I remember talking to my older sister. She didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
She was like, I don't know why you feel like that. Like,
Yeah.
and it kind of bothered me because every time I tried to talk to any of my family members about it, especially the four that I was raised with,
Yeah.
all three of them said the same thing. They're like, how could you feel that way when your life is so good? Or, people love you so much and you're selfish. And I was like, are you serious? Like,
Yeah. The place is blaming you for.
yeah, they're
Yeah.
like blaming
Yeah.
me, saying, oh, it's your fault you feel that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need help. Like,
Yeah.
I'm trying
Yeah.
to get help from you guys.
You're trying to ask for help. Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously it wasn't working.
Yeah.
And like I even tried with the bishop, and the bishop's an old school, you know, he was an old school Tongan dude, so he didn't know either. And I just felt like I had ran out of options, and I decided to deal with it by myself. So
Yeah.
I just remember moving out, getting things, and and I was in a pretty bad like relationship at that time. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was like a very toxic relationship. So it kind of added on the pressure and
Mm-hmm.
the burdens that just kind of made me even more sad and depressed.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know like how I'm supposed to. And I just remember writing like technically the things that took like my depression or my suicidal thoughts away, even if it was for like an hour or something, was always
Mm-hmm.
writing, obviously music,
Mm-hmm.
or like learning a new hobby, or just like always trying to be around my little brother because I have a little 6-year-old brother. I tried
Mm-hmm.
my best to be with him at all times because he just, you know, he's like new to life, and he's oh he was such a happy baby. So I tried my best
Yeah.
to always be around him to kind of just help me ease my mind and my thoughts. Because
Yeah.
this is what probably feel I should have done is like actually seen professional help. Because I think
Yeah.
obviously because my family didn't know what it was, I didn't know what it was, and I felt like if I had seen somebody professionally, I think they would have like understand me and everything that it was going on way better
Yeah.
than what I was surrounded with. So you know, yeah, so I didn't seek any professional help, and I dealt with it those past 4 years just kind of. I was like soul searching,
Yeah.
like slowly. Like I'd find my passion for rugby again, and then I'd like slowly find myself going back to, you know, feeling myself again, going around my family, going back to church, you know, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
I was just kind of soul searching those last 4 years, like 4 or 5 years, just trying to figure out and trying to. And I ended up going to school to just like kind of study it,
Mm-hmm.
like psychology, and why, you know, because I wanted to know,
Yeah.
because obviously my family didn't know, so I was like, you know, somebody needs to figure this out. Like,
Yeah.
if my family's not gonna figure it out, and if they're not gonna, you know, put in the effort to at least figure it out to help me, then I gotta learn. So I decided to just go back to school and just kind of figure it out on my own. And I was like, man, but a person that really held it together for me throughout my suicide depression like phase was my coach.
Yeah.
um my rugby coach. He like, if anything, he gave me like hope in everything that I was doing,
Mm-hmm.
because like he seemed, when he would tell me his stories of life, he seemed like he grew up a very very happy kid, you know, and he didn't seem like he had like he always told me about his struggles and stuff, but he told me, he was like, I've never been depressed or sad, but I feel like I know where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Because he, you know, he would always use his life experiences to try and kind of shade into mine, like my stories, and
Mm-hmm.
try to help me understand why I felt the way that I felt. And he was like, like I was always around him, so everything that he said, he tried to keep, you know, positive and non-triggering, you know.
Yeah.
He, because I know, like I hung around, sometimes I hung around the rugby girls, my teammates, and sometimes they'd say stuff that was so triggering that it would like bring back, you know, the thoughts and the
Yeah.
memories, and I'm just
Yeah.
like sitting there, and then my coach jumps in and he says something, and then my mind's like boom, I'm like, oh, thank goodness you're
Oh,
sitting, like thank goodness you're sitting right there
yeah.
to my face, because oh my gosh, I would have went home and cried. But he like he's held, like he's always had my back since like my depression phase, because a lot of people question everything, like they were like, doesn't Apaau look sick, like hey,
Yeah.
like she looks like she needs help, like they would say stuff like that, but
Mm-hmm.
nobody would like put in the effort to come and figure, you know, come and help me
Yeah.
out or
Yeah.
figure it out or even ask.
Like, yeah. I try to understand what you're going through. Yeah.
Yeah, like, and I feel like all, you know, obviously everyone has their own, you know, their own demons and their
Yeah.
own
Yeah.
burdens and trials, and I just felt like that played a big part of why people didn't come like and ask me, and I felt like I always needed that, like I always felt like I needed somebody to come and ask, like, hey, are you okay? And I felt like it was expected, because I would always expect somebody to be like, "Hey, are you all right? Are you okay? Like,
yeah.
you need help?" But that never really happened except with my coach, and he's the only one that ever asked. And I was like, okay, like as long as one person is willing to, step
Reach
out
out.
of, like, yeah, at least one person was so willing and like so helpful to reach out to me and just kind of talk to me and help me figure it out. And it was crazy because we figured it out all through, like, obviously his stories,
Hmm.
but a lot of it was through rugby.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found a lot of, like,
That was
my,
out like rugby was like your outlet for
yeah,
you.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was. It helped me, like, and I was traveling, like, all those years. I've been traveling. I'm still traveling for rugby,
Yeah.
So it's always played, that major, major big part on just releasing everything.
Yeah.
And sometimes I always, because I almost gave up, like I said, like through the depression, suicidal,
Hmm.
phase
Hmm.
I had, I literally almost gave up. And to think that if I had given up, I'm not sure where I would be without, rugby, because it hit really bad, like, especially for me to attempt a couple times.
Hmm.
And so yeah, it was like really hard for me to kind of adjust. And then, like, I have a little sister who's currently depressed. She's always depressed, and it's a good thing that I went through it. Like, somebody in my family
Yeah.
went through it, so that I can now help my sister. Because now
Yeah.
like, currently now she's not. It's not as bad, but
Yeah.
it's like, it's a start.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's something Polynesian people need to get. Like, it's doesn't matter how, what happened in the past, or like how you were raised, type of thing, as long as somebody starts something.
Yeah. A lot of Polynesians don't understand that when somebody's depressed, you know, they feel very alone,
Yeah.
very alone, right? And it doesn't matter if you're in a family of 11 people, right, or 20 people in one house. But because and I want to give this information, so people out there, like you say, like you share, like the bishop didn't know what it was, your parents didn't know what it was, your even your siblings know, and I know that's the same for a lot of households.
Yeah.
A lot of households just don't know what depression is. But I just want everybody to understand that when somebody's depressed, they feel alone in this world, and what they need is not criticism. What they need is not judgment.
Yeah.
What they need is not "I told you so" or more blame, or all they need is just love and support.
Yeah.
All they need is to be reminded of how important they are, how valuable they are, how loved they are,
Yeah.
and that support, whoever, like your coach was that person. But that's the way that, like you say, because because I've been depressed before, you just feel like that your life don't matter,
Yeah.
right? If you feel hopeless, you feel powerless, like you feel like that nothing I can do today that matters, and
Yeah.
why am I even here?
Yeah. Like,
And
what
then
difference am I gonna make? Or, nobody's gonna miss me.
yeah,
That's,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. But then luckily, God, for God's love, and you meet some people,
Yeah.
and based my own experience, but in all my conversations with people that have gone through depression, it's always they meet somebody in their life that reminds them of their own uh, value and worth, for them to realize, I do have a purpose to live, and I should not give up.
Yeah.
And that person was a coach for me. It was just uh, good friends and good friends I had in my life. And but I just want people to understand that, yeah, like if you have somebody that's going through depression, like all they need is to have somebody in their corner.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah,
even if you don't talk, because that's how my sister is. Like,
yeah,
there's times where she just doesn't want to talk. She just
yeah.
wants
That's
to
fine.
be, she just wants to be near someone. And I'm always like, don't even trip. Like, you don't have to say anything. Like,
Yeah,
I got you. Like, I'm sitting right here, and if you
yeah,
like cry, I'll pat your back. Like,
yeah,
and I feel like me going through it personally, like, and obviously, like I was saying, like, nobody knew what it was. So I
yeah,
literally had to sit there, pat my own back, and just kind of, get myself through it. And I was like,
yeah,
I don't like this. But yeah, it's always like, it's always nice to get a start somewhere, like in breaking the generational curses.
yeah,
Because I feel like, obviously, I'm sure there's tons of Polynesians out there, Pacific Islanders who feel the need of like, we need to get, our mental health and taking like depression and, suicide more seriously,
Mm-hmm.
because like growing up, I didn't know what it was. I wasn't sure how that worked, in a way. And now that, depression and suicide has been on a lot of the Pacific Islanders' minds, like
Yeah.
it's been, and I know, I remember reading like an article. There was a couple kids in American Samoa who have taken their life throughout this year, this 2020. And it sucks because I know those kids probably felt like, they feel lonely. They just want to
Yeah.
be loved. They feel like there's no purpose for them here. And I feel like because Polynesians are so hard headed and they're so tough skinned, they just, the first thing that they react with is the criticism, the judgment.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're always throwing out the things that they see wrong. And I'm like, okay, that's not how this is gonna work. Like, don't do that. And I feel like they just do it because that's technically how everything,
Yeah.
really
They
grows.
don't know. They don't
Yeah.
know. It's like it's very hard to navigate when you. It's very hard to understand something when they don't know, and they don't know it exists. Like in their mind, like that doesn't exist. So when kids go through it, they're like that it doesn't like make sense for them.
Yeah.
And the only thing they know is discipline.
Yes.
It's just so discipline. And how did because one thing I realized that for a lot of everybody goes through depression.
Yeah.
Like I think depression happens to everybody, but it's just like you said, a lot of us don't know that we're going through it.
Yeah.
Going through depression. So so I want to ask you, so like what did you do when so I know you said that your coach was the one that helped you a lot, but was there anything else that you did? Because I really want to like give more value to people that's going through it. Was there anything else that you did for yourself that learned? Like, did you start learning about self? Because I feel like everybody goes with depression. Eventually, you learn about self-love. Eventually, you learn about like taking care of yourself mentally, emotionally, physically. At some point, because that's the only way you can overcome depression. You have to learn how to love yourself. To remind, like, you can't rely on the people to remind how beautiful and how valuable you are. You have to learn that yourself.
Yes. That's
So.
true.
So did you? Yeah. So what did you do? And like, what did you do to finally start learning that you can control your own emotions, that you can control how you feel to be happy? Like, when did you make that change or that transition, and how did you do it?
I actually made that breakthrough last year, 2019. So
Okay.
just recently, but it began with my sister, because I was actually just kind of like, I didn't know where I was going with my life. I just figured
Yeah.
I'd settle down, just settle down, have kids, quit rugby, like I'm getting way too old type of mentality.
Yeah.
I just kind of left it. And then my sister had seen an opportunity to play for Manusina, Samoa.
Okay. Okay.
But she had to decide between them and Tonga.
Yeah.
And, I would just remember her talking about it all the time. And I was like kind of irritated because I didn't want to hear it because I knew I wasn't going to do it. So I was like, you don't have to brag, like,
Yeah.
wait for me, like, just make your decision, pick a team and hurry up and leave.
Yeah.
But she ended up deciding to play for Manusina Samoa, and she, like, I didn't even expect her to do anything at all. I thought she was just joking around about it. She was like, oh, she's just gonna say it and then just end up staying. But she ended up buying a ticket to Samoa to go and train and all this stuff, and I was like, huh. Like, and I just know she kept convincing me. She just kept telling me, she's like, there's nothing for you in Utah, Paul. Like, you need to get out of there. She's like, I know you're like, sometimes she would remind me, she's like, I know you're sad. I know you're depressed and you're still trying to find yourself. She's like, I'm telling you, if you just take this trip and you come back to America, I'm sure you'll know who you are and what your purpose is. And here I am, like doubting my sister's words. I'm like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. Like,
yeah,
leave me alone. Like, mind your business.
yeah.
I'm gonna do what I want to do. You do what you do.
Mhm.
And she ended up, yeah. So we bought her ticket. 2 days after her birthday, my mom and them called and told me, "Oh, your sister's going to the airport. Everybody's saying bye." And I was like, "You guys act like she's not coming back. Like, you
Yeah.
guys act like she's not gonna come back to America. What the heck?" And my mom was like, "Just come, say goodbye to her." And so I went to the airport and I seen her, and I was like, thinking to myself, I was like, "Wow, she's really making a jump." Like, my sister is Tongan at heart.
Yeah.
So she don't know a lick of Samoan. She's just
Yeah.
going to Samoa with
Yeah.
no, like, just by herself, like not my
Yeah.
mom and them. So I was like, oh, this Tongan girl is about to get, she's about to
Yeah.
meet her makers in Samoa.
Yeah.
And I just had seen my sister and I was like thinking, I was like, man, she really jumped. Like, she really jumped the gun, decided to leave everything and everyone behind to go and see, like, to find herself. And so I just remember hugging her and we were crying for a little bit. And she told me, she's like, she whispered in my ear, she was like, "I promise you, if you just take this leap of faith," she's like, "you're gonna find yourself, I promise." And I just like, I'm brushing it off again. I was like, "Dude, just hurry up, get on your plane, get out of here, like,
Mhm.
hurry up and come home." And like a couple weeks after I had seen her play, I was like debating. That's when things started clicking. I was like, why is my mind telling me to go? Like, I can
Yeah.
feel my heart and my intuition pulling me, telling me like, this is for you. Like, you really gotta leave.
Yeah.
And here I am. I'm like talking to my boyfriend at that time, and I was like, I don't want to go. Like, I don't want to leave. I'm gonna leave like everything I love, everything that I'm used to. And I guess you could say like I was in a comfortable setting. Like,
Mhm.
I was already I was already comfortable with what I was doing, my job, how rugby was going, my relationship at that
Mhm.
time, and
Mhm.
I was just comfortable completely. So I was like, still kind of iffy. And then finally, after a week of like actually talking to myself and debating whether I should go or not,
Mhm.
I ended up booking a ticket. And I was like, oh, like, I can't believe I'm really doing this. Like, oh my gosh. It made me nervous and made me more sad because again, I'm leaving everything and everyone I loved. I was like, I don't want to do that. And I just remember going on the airplane to Samoa, which was such a long flight. It took me like 15 hours to get there.
Mhm.
But I just remember as soon as I hopped off the plane, I didn't feel like all the burdens and trials and tribulations that I had on my back.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as I stepped off that plane and like my depression, suicide, and everything had dropped. And I don't know how or why, but I felt happy. Like, for the
You feel
very,
like like a clean slate, huh?
yeah, for
Yeah.
the very first time, like, I felt happy. I didn't
Mhm.
feel depressed. I didn't feel sad, or I didn't even feel alone. And I just remember getting off the plane, walking through, and I had seen my sister, and I just remember crying because I was like, bruh, I don't know why I feel so good. Like, this
Mhm.
feels good. And then technically I was supposed to leave Samoa. So I got to Samoa in June and I was
Mhm.
supposed to leave in July. But I ended up staying there till April.
Yeah.
And just throughout that long period of time being in Samoa, my mom, because technically, yeah, like I said, I was supposed to leave in July. I just remember telling myself, like, I don't want to go home. Like, I still have a lot to figure out, and maybe I could figure it out here.
Yeah.
Because the island life is way different than the American life. So
Mhm.
and these guys, like, they don't have it easier, but the way they make their lives is easy, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just the more that I stayed there, the more that I had found myself. Like, I was actually starting to love everything that I was, um like my body image, the way that I presented myself, the way
Mhm.
that I experience life, the way that I make mistakes, and the way that I was doing it, like the pace.
Mhm.
Like, I was starting to realize, like, wow, like, I had all of this in me and it took me this long, and to be somewhere else to actually find. And I feel like Polynesians should just, like, I feel like a big step to helping, or at least I feel like it's a big step to finding themselves or creating that self-love, is to experience, experience life. Like if you got to go somewhere, do it. Like, because I feel like the Polynesian mentality is always the biggest thing is money,
Yeah.
like, oh, how much is that going to cost? Or, oh, that's way too, that's way too expensive. That's mamafa. I don't want to do that type thing. And I know a lot of people are always like, that's like the Palangi way. That's how the Palangi people, you're not Palangi.
Yeah.
You can't be
Yeah.
out there, doing that. And I'm like, I feel like experiencing life anywhere and, and doing the things that you want to do help find that self-love. Because had I not had made the jump to Samoa and just like, and even cut my return ticket, stay there even longer, I
Yeah.
don't think I would have found myself, and I think I would have been sad. Like sometimes I always like daydream about how my life would have been if I had stayed.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, man. So and then so Samoa definitely created a lot of the self-love for me, especially through rugby. Um, like I was pretty big. Like I think I weighed like almost 200 in
Hmm.
Samoa, but by the time I got home, I weighed like 150, almost 160, and like that helped create like my body, like the image for my body, like
Yeah.
love my body and how it looks. Because I know a lot of Polynesian girls struggle with them. People saying they're like overweight
Yeah. Yeah.
and you're too skinny type thing. And I just felt like in the islands, they they teach the girls, or like in Samoa, they teach the girls like how to embrace your body. Like through rugby, I just remember my coaches, because I would always tell my coaches, I was like, "Oh, I'm too fat for this. I don't know why you guys picked me. Like,
Yeah.
is there somebody else you guys can get in replacement?" But they would always, they see, instead of seeing the flaws, they always tell you like, the good things about your body. Like they would always tell me like, you got strong legs, use them. Like you got buff arms, use them. Like they're like use your body to your ability.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're always like telling me like, if you know how to use your body and treat your body and love your body, then your body will do anything for you. And that's how I learned to love my self-image, because I was always insecure about my body, like my body
Yeah.
image.
Yeah.
And then spiritually also,
Hmm.
um I feel like everybody already knows that in the islands that they're taught, church, to love God, to praise
Yeah.
Him, and then, all glory to, all glory to Him.
Hmm.
And I feel like that helped me spiritually, because they had so much faith in the Lord, like in everything they did. Especially when I hurt my knee, and I remember standing out one of the games, and I just remember them praying, like praying to the Lord, telling Him to give me strength. And here I am, like still kind of mad, like angry, like, "Ugh, I don't know why you guys are wasting your time." And I just remember feeling the strength to just kind of, get up and keep going. And I felt like just them helping me find the Lord again, especially with them being so spiritual. Like everybody goes to church on Sundays. You don't see people, and they're always singing a song before and after, always saying a prayer before and after the games or trainings. And that helped me spiritually. And then emotionally and mentally, I think personally, it was like the kids, just the surroundings, everything in Samoa just kind of helped me, like, made me release everything that I thought was going wrong in life or that I thought was too hard in America, made me realize that it wasn't really as hard as I thought it was, you know? And sometimes I feel like these guys, like the people on the islands, I could be wrong because this is Samoa only, but I feel like in Samoa, they're willing to, like, nowadays, they're willing to talk, like, about emotions, because they always had a lot of, like, we always had a lot of group talks
Yeah.
during rugby. We always talked about, like, is everyone okay? Does everyone feel okay? And I was just sitting there like, you guys really do this? Like, this is nice. Like, I love it. Like, this is really good that you guys are doing that. And they'll always like check in with people. They'll always like try and make sure that, even though the people in Samoa don't have much, they always try their best to give what they can,
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that goes for any Polynesian, Pacific Islander. And I felt like that just helped me a lot because they made me realize that, like, even though, like, I was going through depression and sadness and I felt alone, that, like, there's people really willing to, whether you know them or not, like, there's always somebody willing to help you. And to always, like, they always reminded me that I'm never alone, and they always reminded me that, like, God's there. And if God's not there, there's always someone to, reach out to. And I think that was the biggest thing, was that I learned to reach out to other people, kind of, because, like, in America, I didn't really like reaching out to other people. They didn't, and I always expected someone to reach for me,
Mm-hmm.
but now I'm like, oh, like, now I'm okay with reaching out if I need help, or if somebody needs this and that. So yeah, the islands played a very big part in finding my self-love, helping me find, like, all that I was, everything that I was doing was okay. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I always tell my mom, I'm like, oh, I love Samoa so much. Like, I can't wait to go back. Hopefully COVID disappears so I can go back. Because if it wasn't for the jump to Samoa, I don't think I would have been, like, this happy, most different version of myself, And I just feel like once you experience life like that, and it doesn't even have to be, in our own countries, but at least experience a life different, even if it's for a couple days, like something different to the normal life that you're living. And I'm sure, you'll find that, you'll find yourself in, like, oh, like, man, I was thinking, like, this is this, and everything has to be perfect this way. So yeah. Sorry, I'm like talking your ears off.
No, it's good. No, it's good. No, I was just taking notes. I was taking notes. No, first and foremost, I'll say, thank you for sharing that. I know that was a very intimate part of your life and a very dark and deep moment. But it's always those experiences that we go through our lowest points in life that we truly learn about ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, I felt like that if you didn't go to Samoa, two outcomes would have happened. Either you would have hurt yourself a lot more,
Yeah.
or or maybe you would have actually committed suicide. Because depending on how your life was playing out.
True.
But I feel like everything happens for a reason, and I'm just listening to your whole story, of your whole process. Like, it was just, I feel like not only for yourself, but definitely a lot of people definitely needs to hear that. Because one of the hardest things about depression is, like, and I like to use, like, the storm analogy. When you go through your own storms in life, it's really hard to see that there's an other side.
Yeah.
Because all you see is the rain, the seas. So you can't. So it's really hard for you to imagine or visualize that this storm is gonna eventually end.
Yeah.
And then sunshine, and the sun's gonna come out, right? And just like any storm in life, like, no storm lasts forever. It's gonna eventually pass.
Yeah.
So I want everybody to understand that your depression you're going through right now, it's not gonna be forever.
Right.
Right. Eventually it will pass, but it's gonna require some work, some effort, some change.
Yeah.
From your part, and surrounding yourself with good people, and that's why I kind of just sat back and let you talk your journey. No, because I wanted because it was very beautiful for you to share that you went from, like, you started off, like, at one of the lowest point of your life, and then as you shared your story, the sun got in the clouds, started clearing a little bit more, a little bit more. And then eventually the storm was over, and then now you're living in the nice sunshine right now.
I know.
We do get some little rain here and there, just life. And that's why I wanted people to. That's why I kind of just sit back and let you share it, because I wanted the people to see how your life went from, like, the lowest point from your life, and how you were able to turn it around and understand that. And that was like a long time period as well.
Yeah.
So that was, like, you said you were suffering with depression for like 4 years, right?
Yeah.
And it took you, so you went through a long time. So I just wanted people to fully hear your story, so that way they can kind of, like, understand that everything's a process, that what they're going through is going to take some time.
Yeah.
But don't give up. Just
seriously.
but try to do the things that you did, like work on self-love, surround yourself with good people. And I wanted, and I'm very happy. And if I want to give you a hug right now, like give you a big hug, I would give you a big hug. But thank you for sharing that, and because I know a lot of people needed to hear that. But there's a couple of things I wanted to discuss with you as you were sharing it, because I feel like it's some important things that we can discuss. Number one, in the beginning, I remember when you came out of the hospital, and I know you said that you're having a conversation with your mom, right?
Mm-hmm.
And your mom couldn't believe that you tried to commit suicide.
Yeah.
She was like, "What do you mean you're happy?" Like in her mind, like you were happy.
Yeah, in her mind, she was like, "You're happy. You're living like a good life compared to what you were living when you were little." And I was like, "That's not the point." Like,
so I kind of want to unpack that, because I feel like a lot of people need to hear that. So, and because I know that number one, our parents don't understand what depression is.
Yeah.
And our culture, our people don't understand, especially the elder generation. They don't understand what depression is. And also, I realized this growing up, that when it comes to like the elder generation, or like our parents,
Mm-hmm.
in their mind, happiness, if you eat, if you have a roof over your head,
You got clothes on your
you
bed.
got clothes on your back. In their mind, that's their definition of happiness.
Yeah, of the good.
Right.
Yeah.
And I understand where they're coming from, because they grew up in the islands where it's a little bit financially, and it's a little bit hard over there. So like if you get some clothes, if you have something to eat, it's a big thing in the islands, right?
Yeah.
But in America, it's different here. The life is a little bit more easier, a little bit more better, where everything all we are provided with shelter, food. But if anybody out here that's like a parent, or like that's somebody from the older generation that's watching this, you have to understand that at the end of the day, as kids, like we have, like we're human beings, and we have emotions. We're not like cattle. We just feed, feed, have a place, and everything's good. Like now we go through different experiences, and then and that's what I've heard that multiple times, where I've seen kids hurt themselves, and then the parents can't believe it. Like, I feed you, I clothe you.
Yeah.
And that's why I always tell people is like, at the end of the day, like as parents, like you have to have you have to connect with your kids. Just because you feed your kids, that's because you give them shelter, just because you provide everything for them, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're gonna be happy.
Yeah.
It's just, so like you have to be able to understand what they're going through, because we experience this a little bit different. So, and that's something I just wanted to talk about, that because I hear it all the time. Like elders are like, "Oh yeah, what more could you want? I came to this country.
Seriously, like
what more could you? I gave birth to you. I feed you clothes." And of course, they always want to use the comparison, right? I had it harder than you when growing up in the islands.
Oh my gosh, they start throwing everything. And I'm like, wow. Like that's not what this is.
But and I want, and the reason why I'm bringing this up, because I want parents to stop doing that. Like it's not a competition.
Yeah.
Like depression is real. It happens. Kids, suffering, and like at the end of the day, like all kids, like we just want to be loved, honestly, and be heard.
Yeah.
And feel like that we matter, and feel like we have an opinion, feel like and a lot of times, because like our parents, like they didn't grow up with that type of relationship with their kids.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I remember growing up as a kid, I used to see like Balangi kids like holding hands with their parents, hugging, kissing, love, affection.
Yeah.
And then I'm looking at my parents like, damn, how come I can't get nothing?
Yeah. And you're just kind of like,
and then you try to put your hand out there.
Yeah. They're like, hey, what are you doing? I'm like,
hey, what are you doing?
I know. They're like,
hey,
wait till we go home. And I'm like, I'm just trying to hold your hand.
So I want parents to understand out there, like kids need affection and emotional support.
Yes.
And that's what we lack as a community. We provide financial support, but physical financial support does not make a kid happy.
Yeah.
They need that emotional and emotional support. It comes from affection and just telling kids how you doing, how you okay. And that's something I just want to share out there, put out there first. And you guys like stop comparing. It's not a competition. Like, it's not a competition to like see who has like the worst life. Or, right? You know, you grew up the way you grew up. We as kids can never understand how our parents grew up because we didn't live that life.
Yeah.
Because I used to hear that all the time. Like my parents, you know, we had this. But I was like, I mean, all right, but like, I wasn't there.
Yeah, like I'm here now, and guess where we're at?
I
Like,
mean, like you can. I mean, you can like, you know, you can. What's that word? When parents like preach, is that preach? When you thought I was like lucky, like
yeah, it's preach.
like preach, right? Like, and of course you hear it so many times, like you just like it's just blah blah blah.
Yeah,
Now.
you're like, okay, that's enough. We've heard enough of this story. Like,
yeah, same story. Oh yeah, you know how your life was hard. Like you understand, like if you like, we can never understand what you went through because we just didn't live in that time.
yeah,
All we know as kids like is what we're living at our time.
right.
So it's part of like they have to be able to understand what we go through, and then like I said, we can get that if we get that emotional support. That's all we need. They could definitely help us grow and like be, you know, and not fall into those hard times, especially like the depression and everything.
Yeah, I agree. Cause like there's times where I feel like, well, thank goodness my mom is okay with it now, cause I went through it and she was able to kind of experience and kind of try and get to understand. But like even during my time, I just remember like my mom like, cause I felt like my mom was probably depressed like after she had me and my sister, and I feel like
Oh yeah, that's real. Yeah, our
yeah,
parents go depressed too. Goes with
and I
depression
feel
too.
like she just never really had like anybody to tell or talk about. But like after my whole experience, I remember she was like coming out and she's like, she told me, she's like, I think I know how you feel. And I was like, well, this is awkward. I don't want to talk about it. And usually it's the parents that are like, oh, well, this is
Yeah,
awkward. But to me, when she had said it, I just kind of, it made it awkward for me. And then that's when I had realized, I was like, wow, see, what your parents teach you actually does, kind of, it holds on to you and you feel the same way they would feel if that, that situation happened. And I just remember my mom telling me like, she would always use, not always use, but she would explain how, because since there's 11 of them, only 3 of them came to America, and my
yeah,
mom, it was the oldest of the 3 of them. And my mom was a senior in high school and she didn't know what to do. And my mom was just telling me like, she's like, she didn't have the guidance or the, you know or the equipment that like she needed to provide for like her mental health or her brothers or her sisters, in a way, because she felt like she abandoned them. Like, because
yeah,
after my mom had gotten to America, my mom just got she got a job, graduated, and then she forgot about her siblings,
hmm
because she had realized she was pregnant, and she was with my dad, and she just didn't know where to go, just like kind of how I was. But I
yeah,
remember, like after me, she told me that she had seen her uncle, who passed away, but she had seen him before he had passed away, and he would just tell her like that she's loved. Like if anything, like she could find love and that personal space with them. And then when he passed away, my mom just kind of like left it alone, and
yeah,
and I feel like kids, like how you were saying, like we do need love and affection. Like emotionally, the emotional support really needs to be there, because we wouldn't be able to, connect with our parents. And I
yeah,
feel like the guidance that I feel like the Polynesian Pacific Islander kids just kind of need to understand, like, kind of understand where our parents are coming from in a way, especially because a lot of our parents didn't have like the proper guidance, kind of,
yeah.
you know.
And that's where the communication aspect needs to come in.
Yeah.
Like you know, if our parents, if we're able to talk to our parents, and our parents, and I know a lot of Polynesians don't want to do this, but it's okay to be vulnerable to your kids.
Yeah.
Let them know what you went through.
Yeah.
Let them know like what like that you went through your own depression. Like let them, you don't have to go to just, like tell all. Yeah. We were like, damn, mom.
I was like, geez, you really needed like. That's why
Yeah,
I
but
worry sometimes.
you were like that, damn. All right, but I'm joking. But I'm just saying, like, it's okay to be vulnerable to kids so we can understand,
Yeah.
right? It's like that we like let them know that you did struggle. Let them know that you did like struggle. You went through tough times, because that's how because at the end we love our parents as much as well. So like when we see you struggle, like we it makes us want to become closer to you.
Yeah.
And then we can create that bond. Like,
Right.
okay, my mom's struggling, so like, okay, then she kind of like lets us know that she understands how I feel.
Yeah.
Because in our minds, our parents are like robots, or like this like this superhero that doesn't have any feelings.
Yeah. And they're just too strong for this life.
Yeah,
Never
like
gonna...
they're Superman. They're super. So like, it's hard for us to understand. Like, you don't know what I'm going through.
Yeah.
You don't. And sometimes it'd be like, you don't care what I'm going through.
Seriously,
You have
and
no.
like, I feel like we tend to
Yeah,
forget. Yeah,
yeah,
like you're right.
but
We tend to forget that our parents have like struggled, and maybe they did struggle 10
no,
times.
they
Yeah.
did. But because of the way they live and they act and the way they present themselves to us
Right.
in like this hardcore super mom, super dad, no feelings. I am, beat the hell out of you. And that's the image and the perception we have about our parents. So like we see our parents as like this strong
Yeah.
force, and we can't relate to them because like we're struggling.
Right.
And we never see them struggle. All they do
Right.
is work, come home, sleep, and then that's all that's their usually what the parents do. So we think our parents are just superhuman, and then of course naturally as kids we try to compare ourselves, and that's why it's hard for us to connect with them, because like they live in this different world, we live in this world, and there's no communication at all, and there's no affection, no support.
Yeah.
And also I want to also put out there, like, what I realized this with the Polynesian parents is like, they feel like that the way they raise their kids, if I went through the struggle, my kids have to struggle.
I feel that. I feel that.
All right, so which is I mean, in my opinion, the purpose of what a parent's responsibility is to make sure your kids never go through what you went through.
You went through, right?
Right. When I have, I don't have kids, but when I have kids one day, I don't want my kids to ever go through what I went through.
Yes, that
ever.
is true.
Right. But for some reason, I don't know if it's like a cultural thing but like my parents are like, oh, I went through, just because I went through it, you have to go through it.
Yeah.
Like, but if I get beat, you have to get beat.
Dude, I feel it. Because like there are times where I'm like, because right after high school, I had left. Like, you know how usually in a Polynesian household, Pacific Islander household, usually you stay there till like till you're 30 with kids.
Yeah.
You're probably 30, married with 6 kids, and they expect you to just stay there, kind of thing. But I remember after high school, I dipped. I left my mom and them. I was like, I'm sorry, but I gotta get out of here, because I felt like everything was just kind of like things were repetitive. Like everything that was
it's a cycle.
It was just repetition, and I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to have to and I remember telling my mom that too. I was like, I don't want to sit here and struggle. Like, I've seen what happened to you, and I don't want I don't want that to happen to me. And I didn't want it to happen to my sisters and my little brothers. I was like, no. So as soon as I left, I was like, you know what? I tried my hardest to keep my brothers and my, my sisters afloat, because my mom wasn't as present either. That's why I was like, oh my gosh, like, and like, I'm not the oldest, but I know my older sister had, stuff of her own to deal with, and I felt bad because she took all my beatings and all, everything I had, and I was like, you know what? Now I got to step in, and I was trying, and I mean, I still do try every day to try and keep my brothers and sisters afloat, because I just didn't like the fact that my mom had left it. Like, she left us, and now she left my siblings, like, now, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, they don't deserve this. Like, they should, somebody should be present. They need guidance. And so that's why I feel what you're saying about like them trying to drag the struggle with us.
Yeah, they try to repeat it, or
Yeah, and they're like, you know what?
and also sometimes like I don't blame them because like that's all they know sometimes. Like, they're doing like unintentionally
Yeah.
because that's what they've known and been conditioned to do. But I do notice that behavior where like or that Polynesian parenting style where they expect their kids just to go through what they went through,
Yeah,
right?
seriously.
And our generation, we have the different mentality. We want our kids to live a different life than what
Yeah.
we went through. I want my kids to never go through what we're going through. So I don't want them to suffer. I don't want them to go through
Seriously.
struggle. I don't want them, to go what I went through because I felt that. I felt that pain. All right. So it's crazy. It's just, I feel like it's two totally different mindsets.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to share that with any parent or future parent or elder right now that's watching this. Like, you don't you don't have to put your kids, to what you went through so your kids can become somebody that you feel like they want. They feel like, okay, if I want and I know so this is what this is the mindset of Polynesian parenting. I want my kid to be great. And the only way my kid to be great, they have to go through what I went through.
Yeah,
And
they
it,
have
and,
to.
and if they survive, they make it.
You're not wrong. Oh my gosh.
So that's their. I feel like that's their like logic behind everything. Like, okay, I'm tough, I'm strong. Okay, so I gotta put my kid to the same struggle. And
Yeah.
if my kid's strong enough and it makes it through, then they'll be that.
Then
They'll
we'll
be
know.
the
Yeah.
child. They'll be the child that everyone expects you to be. And that's like, and it's a limited way of thinking. And like, I can raise my kid with love and affection, and I can still make them to become a strong, powerful
Right.
son and daughter. I don't need to raise my kid with discipline and
Yeah.
hard, tough love to make them tough. You can raise your kid with love and with affection, and they can still be as tough
That's tough.
uh,
Yeah.
with love and affection. But they don't know, they don't understand or know that there's a different route.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to like kind of break down. So yeah, just put it out there for all those people out there, all those parents out there. Like, yeah, start showing your kids more love, affection, like, and stop putting your kids through the same struggle you went through,
Yeah.
and
Seriously.
and think that that's the only way you can make your kid tough like you.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I wanted to discuss and unpack. The second thing I wanted to talk about was like, you talked about like a change of scenery, of you needed to make a change.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people need to hear that as well. And this is something that I always encourage a lot of kids. That I feel like it's very important for us to take some time away. What's the best way to word this? I want to word this so that people don't like confuse what I say. Okay, step outside your culture and from your home, from your people, but don't step away from it, if that makes sense. Take some time to step outside of it, so you can figure out your own thoughts and your own feelings and also like challenge what you know or
Yeah.
what you've been taught. Especially if your house is toxic, especially
Yeah.
if you grow up in a toxic or broken home, right? You need, because like I said, you have to understand. And you said this very perfectly in your story. Like you realize, you said that there are always people out there that's willing to help you and love you.
Yeah.
All right, and there's always good people out there, but you have to reach out to them, right? And that's why it's so important to like step outside of it, to know that there's other people out there. And if you're not happy right now, and that's something like I had to do for myself. Like I remember I shared with you, I moved here to LA, right? And the reason why I moved here, because I feel like LA is like aligns with my passion, especially when it comes to podcasting and motivation. That's why I moved out here. But the other reason, the other reason why I moved out here, because I feel like living back in the Bay, there was just a lot of like, for me, I just felt like that every single time I did something, that there's always going to be that criticism and hate that I feel for my family.
Yeah.
And I needed just to step outside of that and just like, and be here by myself, where I can just kind of do things for my own life and not feel that criticism and that energy I used to you feel like as a Polynesian kid.
Yeah.
And ever since I've been here, I just felt so free and so peaceful. Where I don't have to like worry about hearing somebody's thoughts about what I'm doing about my life.
Yeah.
I can just live my life the way I want to live without any people's criticism or judgment. And if I make mistakes here, I'll deal with my own mistakes by myself without any extra criticism, right? And I feel like that for a lot of kids, like you said, like they stay in those cycles and they never get outside of it. And I feel like that it's very important. Whether you don't have to move to a different island.
No, yeah, like it's not about like completely moving, but like, you know,
change something.
Like at least for a little bit, even if it's like for like a week or something. Like something way out of the normal positioning that they're used to.
Out of like there's some like either like hang out with new people, new friends, get your own place, you know, move a different, like just make a change. And get outside what you've been taught and what you know, because I feel like you said, like if you don't know that there's a different side and challenge yourself, then all you know is what your parents taught you.
Seriously.
Right.
And I feel like because the Polynesian community or Pacific Islander community, a lot of it tends because of the expectations of our parents, you know, and people that have raised us, you know, kind of. Because like I always felt that because personally I'm a perfectionist. So, you know, my aunt raising me, I wanted everything to be perfect for her. Everything had to be the way that it had to be for her. My mom's sister, who also raised us, like I tried so hard to be that perfect person for them.
Yeah.
You know, that I was like it's not about you, it's about them. And, you know, I was always so worried about how people were gonna, you know, say stuff to them. They're gonna be like, oh, you raised Apaau that way, that's why she does that. Or you know, blaming my parent, you know, blaming my aunts, my uncles, and my parents. Like they'll always, that's what always worried me. Like that's why I tried my best to stay in my comfort zone. I was like, oh, don't do this, like don't go out and do that, don't be like this person. And because I always felt like it's always gonna come back to my, you know, like judgment is coming right back to my parents or my aunts that raised me. Like it's not coming back to me. And I feel like that's one of the biggest reasons why kids just don't, like, they just sit in their comfort zone and why they're used to what they're used to and just do what they're used to. Because sometimes I feel like they forget about themselves and their own experiences and their own growth.
Well, that's how we're raised, right? Like, we're raised to listen to everything our parents tell us.
Yeah.
And what our parents tell us is always right. And our whole, and of course, especially our culture, like we're you know, is a very like do everything else for other people except yourself. Like we always would take care of other people, which is a beautiful thing. But when it comes to like happiness, and it's all about self-love. Like you got to take care of yourself first before you take care of anybody.
Or before you take care of anybody else.
So, but we grew up in a mindset that okay, we have to please our parents. We have to listen to our parents. Our parents is always right. We have to respect the elders. The elders are always right. We have to put our family before ourselves. Our family needs is always more important than my own need, which is very toxic. Right. And that's why so many kids find it really, really hard to go outside and leave.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why I encourage, like, I feel like everybody needs to leave and go outside their culture. And like, that's why I came to LA, because I really wanted this, like this podcasting I'm doing right now. I remember when I first started this, like people thought it was stupid.
Oh, dude. I can see that. That was like me leaving the rugby. People were like, she's not going to make it. Like, I remember that. And I was like.
And I remember when I posted, like when I started doing this, and people thought like it was stupid, and people thought like, I shouldn't be talking about certain things. And I realized for myself, as long as I stay in this area and this around my family, I'm always going to feel this negative energy. And in order for me, I just needed to get away from that. And that's why I made this change where I could just get away from that and do myself and do myself. But I know one of the hard, and then of course the criticism most kids get when you do leave your house, like, you're fia palangi, tai ofa.
Yeah.
You've right, or you don't value the culture no more. And that's why I said sometimes you need to step outside of the culture, but I'm not stepping away from it. I'm always gonna love my culture. Like I'm always gonna be Tongan.
Right.
All right. I'm always gonna love and who I am and what I've been taught, especially the good values and the good things about our culture,
Yeah.
right? So you can never take that away from me. But sometimes I do feel like we have to step outside of it, because so we can experience the world. We can experience different mentalities, different people, different way of thinking, right?
Yeah.
If your whole life, if you grew up in your home, your whole life, all you've been thinking is like negative and hurtful thoughts. And if you want to start experiencing some positive, maybe you need to get outside of that home.
Yeah, yeah, leave, man.
Yeah, go talk to some, good-hearted people, happy people. Talk to people that want to reach out to you, want to help you. That don't always have a negative mindset. And so that's why I've always encouraged kids like to go outside of it. Whatever you need to experience it, and that's why I noticed, like you said, like that's why the cycles keep repeating. Because nobody in their family or none of the kids ever decide to step outside of it,
right?
And because when you do step outside of it, it is going to be hard. You're going to face a lot of criticism and judgment from everybody, but it's necessary,
right?
Also, what I wanted to also talk about also, I know, like, to reach out for help. I know that's something you mentioned also. It's okay to ask for help.
No, yeah, it is. And especially because you know how hard-headed we are, and
how prideful we are.
Like, it's a bad thing. Like, we make it seem like it's a bad thing to ask for help. Like,
yeah, because we never saw our parents ask for help.
Yeah, see, and I mean, yeah, obviously we see what we grew up with, and we're just kind of like, nah, we don't need help. Like, and I just think that like that needs to wash away from Polynesian mentality completely, because there really is nothing wrong with asking for help, whether it's, for your mental health, spiritual, or even like material things like food, housing, help. There's nothing wrong. And that's what I thought. Like, obviously, that's what I was growing up thinking, like, oh, if we ask for help, that makes me weak, or like, I'm like, I feel like a punk because nobody else is asking for help, and here's me, and I'm like, oh. But I hope, I hope the Pacific Island community notice and they understand, like, there really is nothing wrong with asking for help. Lending a hand, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, as long as as long as it's with the pure intentions and within the needs of how people are and how yourself is, I feel like everyone can always give a helping hand.
The asking for help, and also it doesn't help when people ask for help, and then especially in the Polynesian community, we like to make fun and criticize people that ask for help. You see the gossip. Oh, wait, see that look, see that family. They're on food stamps, and they're like, oh wait, like they don't have food.
And they just
gossip. People gossip and just trash out of families for asking for help or applying for financial aid or being poor. And I see that a lot. So that doesn't help. And that's why a lot of people, like, because of the Mutulao, everybody just talking about everybody else's business. Nobody wants to show their struggle.
Yeah. And I think that's because like sometimes I notice, and a lot of it sucks because a lot of it happens at church,
Yeah, oh yeah, of course. Oh, that's the mecca of
and majority of the time, like, people are like fakakalaing, or like, they're like gossiping over here, over there, and I'm just like, and that's all you can see, them just going on and off, and then it makes, like, if it was my mom, I know my mom would have just been looking and just been like keeping her head down, trying to not be seen, and I just don't understand why that is such a bad thing to those to the Polynesian community. I just really never understood why. Like, it's so.
Well, I feel like that. That saying, hurt people hurt other people.
Yeah.
So like, what I feel like, if you're unhappy, and which I know a lot of people are, sometimes like people have to trash other people to make themselves feel better.
True.
So I feel like that's why people gossip. I feel like, because I feel like if you're happy with your life, you wouldn't have time to like gossip about other people.
You don't have time to hate on people. You don't have that time,
But there's so many so many people in the Polynesian community that's unhappy. So like that's their their way, which is something, I mean, something we need to stop. But yeah, I just see that a lot, that a lot of us, our parents, number one, don't never ask for help.
Yeah.
And they'll rather suffer, even if they have kids. They'd rather just let their kids suffer.
Yeah.
And not ask for help. And I've seen that so many times, it just does not make sense to me. Like, why would you purposely let your family suffer all because of the sake of pride? Because you don't want to be talked about, right? And it's something we need to change. But yeah, I want to throw it out there, everybody out there, like, it's okay to ask for help. And also, I know a lot of people feel like asking for help is a weakness, but asking for help is a strength, because you realize that when you, especially as Polynesians, where we're so prideful, when you ask for help, it means that you really care about yourself to the point that you're willing to let go of your pride and ego, because you feel like that your happiness, your well-being is more important than anything else, for you to willing to go outside and ask for help.
Yeah.
Because it takes great courage. I've been there where I never want to ask for help. I'm the type of person that I want to do things on my own. I never want to ask for help.
Yeah.
But I learned in my life that I have to ask for help at certain times in my life. And also just understand that, so if you ask for help, it means you love yourself enough. Like you value yourself a lot more than what everybody else thinks of you. And that's why you're asking for help, because you do realize there's a problem.
Yeah.
Right. And also,
like, you're not letting yourself suffer in that type of way because you've already.
Yeah. And also like, you're also not only doing it for yourself, but you're doing it for the people that rely on you, that you're responsible for. That you have people that love you as much. So like, why would you let yourself suffer all for the sake of pride, all the sake of ego, and also why would you let yourself suffer, especially when people rely on you?
Yeah.
Like, especially if you have kids, especially if you're taking care of your parents. Like, the reason why I ask for help, because not only I want to take care of myself, but I also want to take care of the people I love, and I know that the best way I can take care of them is I have to make sure I'm good.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask for help. I'm gonna ask for help, because I don't care. Like, at this point in my life, I don't care about what people perceive or say. No, all I care about is take care of me. So I'm happy, and all I care about is making sure the people that I care about are happy.
Yeah.
And that all that matters to me. And so I'm gonna keep asking. And then if you don't want to ask for help and then want to stay in your pain, then that's you. But but we need to change that narrative in our Polynesian community, and everybody out there that's watching this, that it is okay to ask for help, because it shows that you love yourself and you care for yourself. It also shows that you care more about your people that rely on you as well. And I've seen that so many times that I hear stories of Polynesians. I did a podcast with this guy named Josiah Aripate the other day, and he talked about, like, he found out there was somebody that died. It was like a father that died and left like 8 kids behind, because of his physical health, right? And a lot of times, like, as Polynesians, like, we don't want to start making changes, especially when it comes to our health, because everybody's gonna think about criticize you for making changes in your life. But that's the biggest one I saw. So I think the one thing I want to ask you is, I feel like this is something that's going to be very important for a lot of women out there. All right, I remember when you shared your story, and you talked about you had a relationship, and it was toxic. Okay, so I don't know if you want to go down that route, but I feel like, because of my own experience, and there are a lot of Polynesian women out there that go into toxic relationships because they never been taught that love at home. A lot of times, and you brought it up, like, a lot of times that you like you said, like, I've seen this. I had conversations with Polynesian women. Like, when you get beat up all the time at home. Sometimes as Polynesian women, if you get beat up as a child, then you think that's normal when it comes to a relationship, right? So this whole discussion. So if I wanted to ask you if you wanted to talk about it, because I feel like that share your own experience regarding of how that went, because I do see a lot of Polynesian women going to toxic relationships because they've just never been taught, like, how a man is supposed to treat you, how a man is supposed to love you, how a man is supposed to respect you, and all that. And just because if you grow up in a broken, abusive home, and that's how love is shown, then that's the kind of love you're going to be expected from your own partner in relationship. And then when you meet that person that does that to you, in your head, you think, oh, this is normal because this is what I've been
That's what
being
I've
shown
seen.
my whole life, but you're hurting, like it's causing, but you're not happy.
Right.
But so I wanted to ask you if your own experience in your relationship and in the toxic, you said it was toxic, and how much of that toxicity how much of that toxicity like came from your upbringing and from what you saw at home?
Like I said earlier in my story, so I did grow up with splitted parents, and like my aunts and them practically raised me, and I grew up in a Tongan household, like I grew up in a Tongan household where, you like, you can't wear this, you can't do this around the boys, you fold your legs, wear long pants, this and that, so I was always taught that the girls are the ones that provoke the men, I guess, in a way, like growing up in that household. And my aunt, my dad's second oldest sister, she's the only one that had a husband because my dad's other older sister was a widow, but they didn't really show affection either. And the boys within my household didn't really have relationships with like any girls at that time being either. So I really didn't see any type of, love. And then with my parents, like whenever I had seen my parents, I didn't really see that love either. Like, and so when I had gotten into this, like, because this was probably my longest relationship that I've had. And like when I had gotten into this relationship, I was like, it made me like so happy because like I didn't know what love, obviously I didn't know what love was, like that type of romance. I didn't know romantic type love. So I was like, oh, I don't know, like how is this supposed to be, or like, So going into that relationship, like we had what's called like the puppy, the puppy love stage. Yeah. So like we had the best puppy love stage, and I just assumed that that's how it would have.
It's going to be forever.
Yeah, that's how I thought it would have been, because like it was going so good, like everything was going so good, like he was being a gentleman, and I didn't even know how a gentleman was technically supposed to act. Like he opened the doors and stuff, paid for a lot of things, and I just thought, oh, maybe that's how it's supposed to be. And the puppy love stage ended, I think, around like, oh, actually, let me begin with this. So technically, before I had gotten into that relationship, I was preparing for a mission.
Okay.
I was trying to go on my mission. But like I was preparing, I had gotten my patriarchal blessing, I got my, my teeth, my physical, and I was literally ready to leave. But things took a turn when, so I had gotten pregnant. And so I had gotten pregnant and I didn't realize that. And I didn't even know I was pregnant. And so here I am still preparing for a mission while being pregnant, and then also playing rugby. So, so all that happened in such a short amount of time. And then I had found out I was pregnant, and then I had a miscarriage. So and I feel like I left that out in kind of my depression story, but that kind of helped. But like that kind of led to a little bit of it.
Yeah.
But so all that stuff had happened, and just after maybe like a couple months after the miscarriage, like I guess he had some doubts, like he thought that I had cheated on him, or like the baby wasn't his, because it was just it happened all so fast,
Yeah.
And so things just started going left, like really bad. Things took like for the worst. And I just like we would always be yelling at each other. He'd always be calling me names. I would say hurtful and mean things to him too. And I wasn't sure, like it seemed normal to me because that's how I had seen my parents when they, had arguments and stuff. And I was just like, okay, maybe this is normal. Like this is how a relationship works. Like we fight back and forth. And so I just remember he would say hurtful things, I would say hurtful things. And we would just go on and on about like things that had happened, or throwing like past like mistakes at each other throughout like the 4 years that we were together. That's all we did, throw, just throw our past mistakes at each other, get here and there. And I just remember um like one night we were drinking,
Mm.
we're drinking, hanging out with friends, family, just good company, having a good night. And I just like remember like I wanted to settle. Like I was telling him like we should get married, like I want another kid, type thing.
Mm. Mm.
And like I wanted my whole life with this kid. And I
Mm.
was like, yeah,
Yeah.
this is it. Like, and I mind you, I'm like gonna, so I'm like, I have like I'm literally trying, I'm just going off of what's like, what's
Yeah.
coming out of my brain because I'm going
Yeah.
on and I'm not sure what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm like going on, I'm like telling him like we should settle, like we should have another baby. And I just remember like trying so hard to tell him like I want to, I want to be pregnant, I want to do this, I want to do that. And I don't think he took it very lightly. And obviously he was going on too. And that was the first time I had gotten hit. Like I've actually physically got hit by somebody other than my older boy cousins that like literally hit me. And I was like, I don't remember anything after that. Like I just remember trying to scramble for my keys, try and get out of there. And then I had woke up the next morning and I had seen like my nose was all jacked up. I had a busted lip and like my whole face was swollen, and I wasn't sure what I was supposed to do. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm sure, many others didn't know. And usually my first like, because I've seen it in movies, like
Yeah.
I try to base my life off of like movies that I've seen, because
Mhm.
obviously I've never seen it with family. But I was like thinking, I was like, maybe I should leave. Like this man is like really bad, and it's never gotten that bad to where it had to like hit my face. And I remember thinking about it. And what made it 10 times worse was that I had to be around family during that incident. And
Mhm.
so I just remember getting questioned like, what happened to your face? Like, what's going on? And I didn't realize, like, to think that I'd have to lie to my family, and tell them, like, oh yeah, I fell on my face, like, like I slipped and fell because I was going on, I was running, and it was icy outside, and you know, and I just feel like because the very beginning, and I'm not sure, in every other people's situations, but I feel like it started because of that whole incident, my miscarriage, the doubting of, you know, of if it was his or if it was somebody else's or if I was out here cheating and stuff. And it just led from one thing to another because then he would cheat and I would do this, and
Yeah.
then I try and do it to him. Like I try and do it back.
Yeah.
And it just didn't make me feel any better. And I'm sure it didn't make him feel any better. But like it just became so reversal where if one person did something, the other person would have to do it.
Yeah.
And I guess I stayed in that relationship because that's probably the only love I felt like, I just had that void from family, parents, cousins, my parents, and I found, or at least I thought I had found,
Yeah. Yeah.
that
Something
void,
different.
yeah, that void in my heart. I thought I had found it with him, and so that's why I stayed in it so long, and especially because our history was just so clear
Yeah.
cut, and we had been through so much during that time, and I just assumed like this is it, like this is all that's here for me, like, and I
You feel
don't
like
want.
you feel like that this is like the best relationship you could ever have?
Yeah, even
Yeah.
though as toxic as it was
Yeah.
for both of us, yeah, I felt like this is it, like this is
Yeah.
what I want, but I
Yeah.
didn't want it like that, like, in a
Yeah.
sense, like I didn't want the abusiveness or us going back and forth, but
But it's like take it or leave it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, technically, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it was. I was like, hey, this
Yeah.
is it, like
Yeah.
this is it right here.
Yeah.
And so all that stuff had happened, and I just remember us like we had passed it, and we were trying to build our relationship, but for some reason I just felt like it wasn't going anywhere, and I'm sure he felt the same, and I just was like, this isn't like especially with everything that had happened, I was just like, yeah, our history is great and we have such a long history together, but this just isn't us. Like, and I know he wasn't happy because I wasn't happy, you know. And oftentimes I'd find, and I feel like Polynesian women, and I feel like the men too, find reasons. They find the littlest reasons to stay. And that's what I did in that relationship. I found every little inch, every little bit, even if it was like a small portion of it, I'd find a reason to stay. And every time that I was given signals to leave, I just kept telling myself, like, no, like, I've never had love like this. Like, this is the only love that's ever like came through for me. Like, I'm gonna stay. And then that's, you know, and I feel bad that that's what we're used to, you know, used to seeing while growing up is like our, you know, the abusiveness, the toxic criticism, and just, you know, so it was like, it was really tough, those 4 years. And like, I have nothing against him now. Like, I show nothing
Yeah.
but love, you know, and I wish him the best. And, you know, in the future, you know, I hope he's doing well, you know, but it was just like that time frame. I just felt bad because it seemed like I feel like he only stayed because I was trying to stay, you know? Like things
Yeah.
felt forceful. And it just didn't feel like a relationship. Like there were moments in time where we would feel the connection. And then there's
Yeah.
other times where we were just like, oh, it's not there. We're just
Yeah.
here just to be here, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of the times I think about the Polynesian women because even in Samoa, I witnessed a couple relationships that went really bad. And
Yeah.
I remember one of the girls, she was telling me, and I was like, why don't you just leave? And she's like, I can't
Yeah.
do that, you know? And
Yeah.
obviously she's right because I was sitting there thinking, wow, oh, she's right because I didn't leave, you know?
Yeah.
Thinking on my own terms, I was like, oh, I probably shouldn't have said that. And I feel like a lot of the times because the culture, like not the culture, but like because what our parents were taught back in the islands, they were taught that like, or at least from where my mom's perspective, like her and my dad, like like divorce or separation from, you know,
Yeah.
is bad. So I was sitting here thinking because of our history, like if I had left him, it would have looked bad on me, like, you know, kind of thing. And you know, when people go there and they gossip and stuff, then it, you know, comes everything comes right back. And I'm just like, oh, I don't want to deal with that. And on top of that, I just didn't want to have to go through a whole nother relationship, especially after being with this man for like 4 years. I was like, I don't want to have to go through another phase of trying to get to, you know, rebuild
Yeah.
something that I had already took so long to build in a way, you know. So I just, yeah, and I know a lot of Polynesian girls go through it, and especially in the islands, like that's what they're taught. Like, well, now at least they're working on it, like men being abusive or women being abusive. Like they're trying to get people to just kind of learn that it's not okay. And I feel like, you know, once you get the first signal of, you know, toxic, I feel like people should recognize and just kind of immediately either like settle or, you know, figure some kind of way to get out of it. Because I
Yeah.
feel like if me and him would have both like recognized it the first time, like I think we would have like figured ourselves out earlier in the time being, and us, we, you know, finding that like that safe space due to like our childhoods and everything that we've, you know, come across, if that makes sense.
Yeah. 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 And also, like you said, I mean, you guys were together for 4 years, right?
Yeah.
And one thing I realized too is like the longer you stay in it, the harder it is to get out,
Yeah, it is. And I know,
right?
yeah.
And I see this a lot with toxic relationships, especially with Polynesian women, right? Like they just keep staying in. Well, they don't never get out, and the longer you stay, well, they'll be like, okay, I mean, it's really hard to get outside because now you're really invested into it.
Yeah, you very, yes.
So it's like it's hard to leave, but that's why it's important. If, like you said, like with the moment you notice it, then you gotta leave. But that's why I wanted to. But I wanted to talk about this topic because I feel like I'm just for me, I've just seen so many abusive and toxic relationships, and I'm not only with my own family, but I see like or in friends, And that, oh, and I remember growing up and I saw it. I always ask myself, why are they staying? Like, especially when I see the women get beat.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why? And I remember that's what I thought about. Like, that's crazy. Like if you, especially with our like Polynesian, the way we just respect women.
Uh-huh.
It's just,
Oh yeah.
that was like a self conflict. I was like, wait, we're supposed to respect women. Why? Like, I don't. For me, it just didn't make sense. Oh yeah, I gotta turn that light too. Bow, bow, bow.
I was like, sorry, it's kind of dark. I made my.
Let me see if I can turn my light. Oops. There we go. To the sunlight. But yes, I saw that a lot, and I know a lot of it comes from like what we see at home. But that's why I wanted to talk about it, because like I feel like that we, as growing up as Islanders or Polynesian, we never learn what a healthy relationship is.
Yeah, we don't. Even if it's not romantic,
Yeah. Even professionally,
like the friendship,
at the workplace, and that's why we only connect with other. That's why we only friends with other Tongans, because we know how to. Because that's the only type of relationship we know.
Yeah.
Right, and I see there's a lot where like girls like they have to go through a lot of abusive relationships before they finally realize, like, because, and also understand, like, if you don't know what a healthy relationship is, that's really hard.
Yeah, because
right?
You're not even sure, if like, because I just remember like throughout the years that we were together, I was like, I would ask my friends for like advice, like a couple of my rugby teammates, and so, I remember one girl was like, "Yeah, cheating's part of like
your
relationship process."
You know how many times I've heard that? That is crazy.
That's why I was like, "Oh, are you sure?" Like, I don't think that's, and like here I am thinking like, okay, maybe it is part of the process, So I would do it, he would do it, and I was just like, oh, this is. I was like, I don't think that's right, but
yeah.
Supposedly it helps the both of you grow, and I was just like, I don't know, people have their own way of growing their relationships, which is cool, and I mean, for you guys, cool, but it didn't work for both of us.
I remember heard one of my friends say, like, this is so toxic. He said that you found the right girl is when you cheat and she still stays.
That's so awful. Oh my
god. Man, when I heard that, I had mixed. I don't know whether to be happy, whether to be sad, whether to be. I was like, what? I mean that. I was like, man. I mean, but it's sad. But I've heard. But it's sad. But I've seen that so many times. Like, guys will like cheat, and the girl say that, yeah, she's the one. She's the keeper.
Yeah, which I find crazy. And I mean, I adore the women that do stay. Like, I adore the men and women that do stay in the relationships after things like that, or like, not the abusive part, but just like the cheating. Like, I really do adore people that have the strength to stay like that, because after that wrong has been done, it's different. Yeah, and you're not sure.
It's never the same after somebody cheats, and it's so toxic.
The fact that your friend said that's so fucking awful. Oh my god.
I'm not at that time when you said it, like, we were all tapping each other up. Yeah.
Wow.
I was like, let the cheating begin.
But I like, personally, I do believe like cheating does help people grow, I know it's wrong to say that, but I feel like, as in relationships, like if it does happen to you, then I feel like it helps your growing process, like in a way. I feel like it depends on the person. Look.
I don't think cheating should happen. Hey, but I understand that you're kind of broken from your childhood. No, it comes from the point. You know how I told you, like, before, like, Polynesian parents, right? They think that the only way you can make your kids tough is by treating them tough.
Yeah.
I think it's the same concept of why you feel like that. Like, you feel like that the only way you can grow a relationship is through cheating, and it's because that's the only way you've known, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
But you can develop a nice, solid love relationship without cheating. That is a different option. Just to let you know.
That is, you're right. Well,
just
now
let
that
you know.
I'm older.
Yeah, just to let you know.
I'm older, I don't
I hope none of the like guys out here that are cheaters are watching this. Oh, let me slide.
I'm like, no, don't do that. That's not what I'm saying. But like within that time that that relationship
Yeah.
we had, I thought like within that time, I thought that the cheating was like it kind of helped me grow in a way.
Yeah.
Especially me.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you should avoid cheating. I just think like our difficulties and our hearts and the struggles we go through in life.
Yeah.
No matter what it is, whether it's cheating, but it's always the difficult times we go through in our life that makes us better. And but not just like cheating, not just cheating. And, I don't want people out there to go out there right now and start cheating. But I told me to go cheat.
Please don't do that. I did not say that.
But I know what you meant. You meant that if you didn't go through that cheating, that phase in your life, you wouldn't learn the things that you know now. It made you who you are today. But I think what you meant was like when you go through hard time, doesn't matter what circumstance you go through.
Doesn't matter what it is,
what it is, right? You always learn from it, and that's why those hard times are necessary and that we go through. But we shouldn't go look for it. That's the thing.
Yeah,
like,
for real. Don't go and like purposely put yourself. Yeah, put yourself in that situation because
it comes, right? That's life. If it comes, we just deal with it, go with it, and then move on. But don't go looking for trouble.
Everybody's about to be pot and just go walk on. Please don't do that.
Yeah, I hope you don't become like a meme. Hey, Bao told me
to. Like, I'm sorry, that's not what I meant. No, but I feel so sad that the Polynesian women and I know there's Polynesian men that are abused by their wives, which I think is crazy because
I've seen both sides.
I'm like, I've never seen a woman physically or like actually not physically, but usually I've only seen verbally like abuse. But other than that, I'm just like, I feel bad for like our community because like you said, like we've grown up seeing that and we just everybody
and that's what we look for. And that's what we look for in relationships.
We're trying to look for the love.
And when we see that relationship, and also just put out there like abuse it's not only physical, it's also verbal and mental. Or mental as well, so you can get mentally, emotionally abused by people, manipulated. But like that's what we look for. So like that's what we saw at home, and then I see this a lot of girls that if they grow up in a broken home, if they grow up in a unhealthy, a toxic home, especially with how their parents, how their relationship, they saw the relationships, their parents' relationship, then that's what they look for, and of course you look for it, you're gonna receive it, and it's just sad for me to see that they have to go through that, and then eventually they'll get out of it. Some do make out of it, but I just wanted to like I don't want them to. I want more Polynesian women and guys avoid it, and to start learning about what a healthy relationship is, like with this reciprocation, communication. Right, love, like talking, empathy, sympathy, thinking about the other person, and affection, and sometimes I see a lot of Polynesian women, like Polynesian girls, so like when they finally do meet a good guy, right, and then like they'll like curve, they'll curve him.
Like, nah, I don't want that, and I'm like, oh jeez.
I mean, I don't want to make light of it, but I always find it funny, like when I hear girls, I heard it, guys say at the same time, but I hear girls like they want the church going man. They want all the perfect husband, but they go look for it in the same place where like from the same guy that they keeps hurting them. or from the same area or neighborhood. Like especially like like I've heard this. Girls are like from the hood. Like and they're like, hey, if you like to date hood guys, that's and they date who you want to date. But I always hear like girls like, I want this church going man, I want this hardworking man, full time job and everything. But they go look for it like in the hood.
No, I feel that.
I'm like, if you want like a church going man, a guy that has a job, a full time job, and you're not gonna find him in those type of areas.
Not gonna find him where you think you're gonna.
And I'm not disrespecting the hood and saying that all guys are like that.
No,
I'm just saying, I've just heard that like if it's not working, then you like don't want one thing and go look in the same place for you that's hurting you.
Yeah.
What's that old quote? Like, damn, what's that quote? Oh, you can't find happiness in the same place you lost it. Or a light bulb just went out.
I know. I was like, oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah. So yeah, but I wanted to talk about that because I feel like I have so much love for like a Polynesian, and one thing I love about Polynesian women, like they're just like loving and giving, and they're very forgiving, and I feel like sometimes
I believe that big time.
Very forgiving, and I feel like sometimes the men like know that, and they take advantage of that because they know. I've seen that with parents too. With I've seen it with like my friends' parents where like the mom would stick it through, and then I'll hear from my friends like tell me like, I don't know how my mom did that. I don't know why my mom's doing that.
I agree.
And it'll be the kids trying to convince the mom, leave, and the mom's like, no. Mom's like, no. It's just, I was like, dang, I've seen that so many times, but I know Polynesian, women like they're really, really loving, forgiving, and sometimes that can be like something that hurts you more than it helps you if you're too forgiving. But that's why like I said, that's why I'm doing this podcast. And also why I encourage people to step outside the culture and go educate yourself, learn about, go to learn about relationships, go to workshops, go to seminars, watch a training video and learn about relationships, learn about the things of how to, what love is and what healthy relationships is, what healthy communication is. So that way you can know it for yourself, so you can be aware of it when you do meet a guy.
Yeah, when you do, when it does come, like, because like how you were saying, like how the poly parents do stick it out, like, and sometimes people are like, "Dang, mom, how did you do it?" That always reminds me of like the time when before my parents first broke up. I just always looked at it and I was like, "Dang, mom." Like I remember being so little and I was just like, I can't believe like this is all happening.
Yeah.
And here I am blaming my mom. I was like, Mom, it's your fault that dad, and I was like, it's your fault that dad left. And the older I became, I was like thinking, and I look back and I just remember all the times my dad had left, and my dad would like bring other women around, and I was just like, thank God my mom is like, because I know the strength of the Polynesian women, how hard it is to leave, and I look at my mom and I'm like, thank God you left, because and I don't even think it was my mom. I just like, I thank my dad for leaving my mom, because she probably didn't have the strength to leave him anyways, and I find that very like opening to, like, that should be like a sign for the Polynesian women. I feel like if somebody leaves, like it's like, personally to me, like if somebody had left me, like I feel like I wouldn't have the strength to leave them, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I feel for like all the parents, especially because like I know it happens to the men. I'm trying not to like make this all biased, because when I see the Polynesian women and them suffering through that, I just like, you get really curious, like, man, so many people have stuck it through. And then, like you said, we were taught tough love. We were taught to, you guys, hold it down as long as you can, and, the rest will follow. And so, when I seen that growing up, I just kind of was like, oh, like, dang, that really, to me, I thought that was love, And I feel like a lot of Polynesians think, oh yeah, that's love. And like, but it's like a toxic type love.
Yeah. And also, just because they stick it through doesn't mean they're happy.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of times, they stuck it through and everything was good. No, just sometimes people stuck it through because they're too afraid. Both of them are too afraid to do something about it.
Yeah.
So they just like accept it for what it is and just stay in it. But just because your parents are married for a long time, or your mom or your dad is like tolerating.
Yeah.
That's the word, because I feel like as Polynesian women, you guys learn to tolerate love, right? To tolerate for love instead of like you guys should go out there and go out there and get what you're worth and what you deserve.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, and I know as Polynesian women, like sometimes when you, like you say, if you're married or invest in a relationship with somebody for a long time, sometimes it can be really hard to get the courage to leave that person and go find another person and restart the whole process.
Yeah.
Like I'm saying, you spent 4 years with your relationship. Like, think about like, oh, I have to do this all over again. Like, not a,
And I think just after leaving that relationship, like I didn't even think of it like that. And I feel like, obviously clean slate, like,
Yeah.
yeah, you're tired of the talking phases, having to go out of your way, things like that. I never had, like, after that relationship, I don't think I ever saw like relationships being like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just kind of was like, oh, like, what now? Because I was so invested in that relationship. I remember coming off of it and I was like, dang, so what now? Like, do I jump back into another relationship? Do I continue to find myself? Or do I listen to my mom and just go find somebody to get married to and then call it that,
Yeah.
But yeah.
What's your conclusion now? Which one are you gonna go with?
I'm continuing to find self-love.
Yeah. You're attracted.
Yeah, I just decided, because I was in Samoan for so long and then I came back, I just decided to just continue like finding self-love, continuing to love myself, take care of myself, in ways that I've never imagined I'd ever love myself in. On top of that, just kind of like, taking care of myself, like financially, on a, just, that's technically what I came off to. Because when I came back from Samoa, my original plan was to just go find somebody, get married, and call it.
Yeah.
And call it the good life.
Whoever's willing to take that, whoever's married, anybody's willing to marry me.
Yeah,
I'll just take it.
I was like, just come, we're gonna get married, that's it, and we're gonna call it a life, guys. But I remember, I just remember coming, and that was the first original plan, was find somebody, get married, you're done, like settle down. And it's funny, like I feel
a lot of girls, by the way, actually do that.
Yeah, and that's why I was like, I feel bad, because I feel like Polynesians are placed in like some kind of like time, like a time frame that they have to be, like, oh, you have to be married by this age, or oh, you have to go do this, or you should be having kids by this, like that type of like time frame thing. Because I just remember my mom, she was telling me, you're getting old, like you're almost near 30 and you're not even married with kids. And I was like,
you're not even old.
I was like, what the? I'm like, thank you. At least you don't think I'm old. But my mom thinks I'm old. She says I'm old, and she's like, you need to hurry. Like, yeah. I feel like they're always rushing to like, I feel like parents push their kids to just to get married and have kids,
Yeah, like she's trying to project her life to have you live the life she lived. That's what our parents do. I got married hella young. You should get married hella young. It's the same thing. And just listen to everything, like, because I feel like a lot of Polynesian girls like are put at a disadvantage on how they are raised in the culture, and especially when it comes to relationships, because your whole life you grow up in tough love, and whole life, a lot of expectation for you to be perfect. Your whole life you're taught to stay in the house and not go outside and do anything, right? Be cooking, clean, be a housewife. So the first chance they get, the first crack at love they get, they just all in.
Yeah,
all into it. All right, like, because of how girls grow up so tough in the Polynesian household, the first guy they talk to, that first relationship, they're all in that relationship, whether it's unhealthy or not. Doesn't matter how that guy, but is or whatever. And I see this a lot of girls, like they just like the first chance they get, and they just all into that relationship and thinking that there's no other relationship after this. This is it. right? And then a lot of times, like you said, it doesn't work out, but it's really hard for them to like navigate through that, understand that sometimes in life it does take a couple of relationships to figure out the right partner, and of course learning what the right partner is. Because I feel like I think that's something that's not taught to our not only to men and to girls. Like we just taught to, hey, just find somebody, marry, that's it, settle.
Yeah, seriously.
Right, but we're not. But I think we should. It's important to teach them like finding the right person that's compatible with you. All right, so that way you build something, and not just settle because like doesn't what's the point of marrying early and then you're not happy with that person and you find out like a year into it like, oh shoot, I don't really like this guy.
Yeah, like
yeah, well, hey, let the cheating begin.
Oh jeez.
That's what I. No, I'm not trying to. I know it's a serious topic, but I'm just making fun. But no, it's a real thing. I see that because of how it kind of puts you guys at a disadvantage of how you guys are raised.
Yeah.
That it's when it comes to relationships, it's like they just fall into it. All right, but yeah, I think man, I think we've gone through a lot today. Man, you shared some great stuff about your life. I think the one thing we'll end it off with is I'll give you a chance to speak on it because I know you wanted to talk about it. Because every single time at the end of the podcast, I always ask people to speak some final thoughts and inspirational words. All right. But first and foremost, I just want to say, thank you for your courage and taking the time to do this podcast with me, and thank you for sharing your life story. And I know it wasn't easy. A lot of people think they just get on camera and then it's just easy to talk on camera. But really appreciate you sharing your life story and sharing what you went through, not only for yourself but for everybody that's watching this. Because I know somebody's gonna be watching this, and it's something you shared, especially for the Polynesian women out there that's watching this. There's so many things that you talked about that a lot of people can relate to. I even can relate to as well, and to see that it's very empowering. So I hope people people felt that strength, even though it was kind of rocky. The beginning was kind of rocky. I think I had to question. Maybe I should just cut this podcast. Pull the plug.
Like, okay, let me off my camera.
I was just joking. But it was very empowering, and just to talk about what you went through and to be who you are today. So I feel like a lot of people need to hear that. I want to thank you. So I want to ask you to share some final thoughts. But if you want to share about the last thing that we didn't really get a chance to talk about, I think if you want to talk about it real quick, the last part is defending the family members who do wrong or make mistakes. So I'll let you finish off the podcast with that and share your thoughts and your opinion of how you feel about we should defend people that make mistakes in our culture and fall short of the expectations. And I think we'll end up our podcast with that.
All right, cool. Wow, I don't even know where to begin with.
Just share. What's the first thing that comes to your mind when I say that? Defending the family members who do wrong. Because I know our culture can really just trash people.
Yeah.
For being imperfect and making mistakes.
I think I watched a recent podcast of, I believe, you and I think her name is Nenny.
Oh yeah, Nenny. Oh yeah.
So, like, I remember hearing about her, like, her story and like her rape story.
Yeah.
And to me, I just feel like I'm so grateful she came out with that because I know a lot of people and I know a lot of
and right now there's like an ongoing battle right now on Facebook.
Yeah. So I've seen and and I feel so bad that that there literally really has to be two sides. Like
yeah.
I believe that. And my heart goes out to her and her sisters. Mm-hmm. And I remember seeing that and I was like, oh, that's so crazy because a lot of people don't talk about, that type of wrongdoing.
Yeah. Rape and molestation and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I just remember having a grandfather that I was raised around who would sexually assault me. And I'm sure he had sexually assaulted like my three other sisters who I was raised with.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like because I didn't know what that was. Like, I didn't know what he was doing or like what was happening. And like when she came out with that story, I just had to be like, and I seen so many people defending.
Yeah, the guys, yeah.
Yeah, I had seen so many people defending them, and it just kind of like it triggered me like super bad. I was like, how can you guys like doubt? And I know because a lot of them are family, and they think
Yeah.
they know, they think they know their family members so good
Yeah.
that they could never do any type of wrong, especially that. Like, and it triggered me really bad because I remember, being little, me and my sisters, we would tell, my aunts, like, he was over here doing this, and my aunts would sit there and be like, you guys are lying, like, he would never do that. And
Yeah.
that was the key, like the key phrase, like he or she would never do that. And I was
Yeah.
just, oh my gosh, like, and we were little, so obviously, they're gonna be like,
How young were you?
like 7, 8.
Oh wow. Okay. Wow. 7, 8 years
Yeah,
old. Okay.
so I was like 7, and my sisters were like 8, 9, and so we were pretty young, and like we used to, like, I wouldn't say treat him bad, but like we used to like tease him a lot, and like we didn't try and hurt him, but we wanted him to like feel some type of pain,
Yeah.
the pain that he inflicted in us. That's why I was like, oh, I don't understand how. And we would continuously tell my aunt, like, hey, he's doing this or he's doing that, and my answer would just be like, no, he's not like that, he wouldn't do that, like, we know him better. And it just really triggers me that people really think that they know somebody, or they think they know their family member so good like that they think they actually understand, or they can see through their eyes and be like, oh yeah, they won't do that. And it just bothered me a lot. Like, I had seen it, and I was like, and I'm gonna continuously say it, but it does trigger me a lot to think that people really think they know their family members like they say they do, you
Mhm.
know. And so, and obviously, people just sweep it under the rug. The Polynesian people just dust it off, and they're like, well, like, that's that. Like, you don't need to. Nobody needs to know about it, or nobody needs to hear it. And I'm sure, my sisters, and I'm pretty sure my family that watches this is going to be like, because we've only ever told my aunt. And so they're probably just going to watch this and be like, dang, who would have known? But I felt like because my aunt didn't really believe it, I just thought that, maybe my other cousins and my other people that I grew around wouldn't believe me because one person said that they knew them so well. And it just like it breaks my heart to see that in the Polynesian community, that we think that it's okay to defend people like that.
Yeah.
Like that could be, and it's sad that we have to sit there and say, what if that was your child, or what if that was somebody you hold so dearly? Like, we have to say stuff like that for people to actually get, you know that empathy and that sympathy.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, okay, now I know what you mean.
Yeah.
And it's like sad, and it's heartbreaking to see that in the Polynesian community. So, I feel like, why defend? That's like complete wrong. I don't understand why people would defend somebody who could like physically and mentally and emotionally just hurt somebody that they say they love.
Especially a family member.
Yeah.
It's what the yeah.
Like, and it bothered me so much. Like, as much as we tried to tell my aunt, she just, the only thing she could ever say was, he wouldn't do that, he's not like that. I was like, and
Yeah.
it's sad that it has to start at, it happened at such a young age. And I pray, and hopefully, people recognize, the people that do that type of wrong in our families, and that they keep their loved ones safe. Because I feel like it just like, it's repetitive, and it just continuously gets swept under the rug. And obviously it's a taboo topic that the Polynesian community just doesn't want to be around, or even want to hear about it. And like, the fact that they pick one side over the other, which is so crazy.
Hmm.
And it just,
Hmm.
it bothers me a lot
Mm-hmm.
that we do that, and that especially the defending. I can never understand the defending of it all. Like, yeah, they're family, but they did that to another family, like another family member within that family line. Like that doesn't seem to affect you. That doesn't seem to bother you. Like, oh, okay, you know. So
Mm-hmm. Yep. So pretty much public service announcement, stop defending. Everybody out there, stop defending those molesters and abusers. Please put them out there. They
yeah, and it sucks because when people do take it to the court and to the police and nothing can be done, then what? Like all we
I
can
know.
is like expose them, like because I wouldn't want my kids around, like
Yeah.
you're like I don't have kids now, but I'm sure you wouldn't want your
Yeah.
kids. You want the safety.
Yeah.
We care about the safety of our babies, our children, the young ones, the generation coming up, because obviously people like there's people around us that have experienced it but haven't told anybody in a way. So that's why I was like, I'm so grateful for that podcast that you guys did, and I just completely see people defending, and I was just like, it's sad.
I know. There was one lady, man. I've got a lot of like hateful comments about because from that podcast, like because people comment. I had to. There's a lot of comments I had to delete.
Yeah.
Because people will go in there and just trash Nanny. I'll shout out, love you, Nanny. Shout out to you. Keep doing you, girl. Love you. But I just, man, there was some hateful comments from, and I had to spam report it to Facebook and get it deleted.
Yeah.
But I was like, damn, people really have that hate, like, and especially like not you're just like looking from the outside in, like you don't know what happened, and you weren't there, and this is what she went through it. But man, that sucks.
Yeah.
But I have love for everybody out there that's going through it, and then like I don't wish that upon anybody.
Seriously.
But yeah, I think we've got to the end. And but yeah, just like I said before, thank you for taking the time. We've been doing this for a while now.
Oh my God. Sorry for holding up your time.
Oh no, it was good. We had a good time. We had a good talk. But I just want to say, yeah, like I said, thank you for taking the time. We had some great fun, and thank you appreciate you taking the time and the courage to speak today. And I know a lot of people needed to hear this. So we're about to end it, and I'm gonna turn off the recording. I'm gonna talk to you right after. I'm gonna stop. Okay, and just